sound. Sorry that took a little longer than usual to start. And we are good once again. And for the final time in this Tour de France, we are live. For what should be a very entertaining last stage. It's not the typical procession day into Paris. And here is the situation at the moment. We're early in the day, which is why you've got Cees Bol at the top of the list of riders across the line as of this moment. And bottom of the list, Mark Cavendish. But I am sure he will not care. He's got a swarm of media around him after he crossed the line in what I assume will be his last ever Tour de France. To the line comes Groenewegen, and he is about to unseat Cavendish at the bottom of the leaderboard. Cees Bol leads with a 52 minute and 24 second time. Groenewegen rounds the final corner and goes 3 minutes and 41 seconds down into 8th position overall as things stand. But we've got a lot to talk about before we get into the nitty gritty of this time trial. Because stage 20 was the last opportunity for GC action on the road stages, one-on-one and against one another, as Søren Verdenschold slots himself in front of Dylan Groenewegen and behind Mark Cavendish. Verdenschold especially good in the prologues on flat terrain, but this time trial did not suit him whatsoever. As the drone shot begins once more to follow another rider down the descent. And it has been a good shot, although we can't really see what is going on in pure detail. When drone shots get better, I'm sure that will occur. But more riders are beginning. Mathieu van der Poel is about to set off on my stream. He has 6-5 if you want to sync up. 4, 3, 2, 1. And Van der Poel is off. Not in the rainbow bands of World Champion, which kind of unsettled me a bit when the camera first flicked to him. But he is underway. And we have a lot to talk about as Sébastien Grignard goes fastest for Lotto Destiny. Jared Dresners was the early pace setter, quickly unseated by Cees Bol around 20 seconds later on the road. But Grignard has blown Bol's time out of the water, 40 seconds ahead of the Dutch lead-out man for Lotto Destiny, who may be in and around the stage hopefuls, at least for today. So that's your situation caught up on. Let's talk immediately about what went on stage 20. Because it was full of action, and we once again saw Tadej Pogacar rise to the top of the crop, as a certain friend by the name of Nijschakker says. Pogacar won yesterday's stage once again after sprinting off of the wheel of Jonas Vingegaard. He put 7 seconds into the Danish rider. Of course, means nothing really for the general classification. But here's what Pogacar had to say entering at the end of yesterday's stage about the day's stage. I enjoyed today very much, but it isn't all as we planned. I couldn't be happier with another stage win. I'm really happy. Just one more day tomorrow, which is a time trial. I think I'm going to enjoy tomorrow as well. I was really surprised with how the race exploded on the Col de Braus. It's one of my favourite climbs to train on in this area, but our guys did a super good job. We were all together to the top and then to the bottom at Sospel. Then Marc Soler went in the breakaway and that was good for us. Then we tried to take it easy and bring as many guys to the final climb as possible, just to have a group ride until then. Soudal Quickstep decided to try and take some time on Jonas Vingegaard, I guess, or to win the stage, which was really playing into my hands. I think that Jonas Vingegaard had some tough days, and today he showed that he's not easy to crack and is a real fighter. He gave everything today and did a really good ride. He was super strong. 5 stage victories for me is more than enough. Even 1 would be enough. I don't care about what people think. The breakaway was super strong today and they had a chance. I was saving the legs just in case for the final, so I was staying calm and doing my race. Last year, I was quite open about my road to recovery, about how my road to recovery in the Tour de France was. It was really tough. I more or less give all the details in the interviews that I did about my injury last year. Maybe Jonas Vingegaard will say something about his way of coming back to the Tour and how that was, but for sure it was not ideal for him. He had quite a lot of preparation, I think, but you never know. So a little bit of a sly dig there from Pogacar, as Lenny Martinez is our first climbing talent to complete the stage and proves it by going 3 minutes clear of Sebastian Grignard. Matej Mohoric just in front of him on the road, moving into second place after he caught his 1.5 minute man and almost his 3 minute man. Mohoric out sprinting Lenny Martinez to the finish line. And that is the situation at the moment. Harm van Halke is at 3 minutes 40 from Lenny Martinez, but it's a good time from the young Frenchman and the first respectable effort that we have seen. So that was what Pog had to say. I turned into Cadel Evans there. That was what Pogacar had to say at the end of stage 20. How about his rival on the road and second in the GC, gaining some time on Remco Evenepoel yesterday, Jonas Vingegaard? Here's what he had to say in an extended interview at the end of the stage. I felt super good when Remco Evenepoel attacked, and then I decided that the second time he would attack, I would counter-attack him, and that's exactly what I did. So then I was riding to put a bit more time into him rather than go for the stage win today. Everyone has their tactics, so I don't judge anyone on their tactics, and he was sitting on a bit more. I think I would probably do the same in his situation. He didn't need to ride, he already has 5 minutes on me, and it's just how it is. I'm happy with how I rode today and how I recovered from yesterday. Yesterday I was feeling really bad and feeling completely empty, so to be able to bounce back like this is really nice. I had a way better feeling today. The legs felt much better than yesterday, and then you also gain confidence when you feel like that. I also believe more in myself than I did yesterday. There's still a day tomorrow, so we haven't finished yet, but if I finish second, I'll probably rate it as one of the biggest results in my career, noting where I'm coming from in the last 3 months. From the accident there, breaking almost every bone in my upper body on the right side and puncturing both lungs, to where I am now, I'm just incredibly proud of the journey that me and my family have been on. And Vingegaard ended off his little talk by saying, in some kind of way, I was hoping Tadej Pogacar would give it to me, but I knew already that I'd been riding so hard. If he would sprint, I would have no chance because I was already on the limit. But you can always hope, and it's cycling. That's how it is. I don't blame him at all. I would probably do the same, but I'm just happy with how I performed today and how I could come back from yesterday. And we do forget that Jonas Vingegaard had those injuries, especially going into it. I was kind of high on the fact that it's Jonas Vingegaard, and at peak level, he can beat Tadej Pogacar. However, we've got to remember that the big crack yesterday was probably caused by lack of preparation after the huge incident that he had in the Basque Country earlier on in the season. So that was what Jonas Vingegaard had to say. He'll be going much later in the day. It's going to be a late stream, at least to finish, just because I think it ends at about 6:30 my time, and it's just heading on 3 o'clock my time now. So we've got a long stream ahead of us, which is great, and we will be doing tier lists at the end of teams, definitely, of stages potentially on how entertaining they were. And that will fill a little gap while I slyly make a rider tier list in the background, so we can rate pretty much well, all of the protagonists, definitely, at this Tour de France. On the road right now is Vingegaard and Evenepoel, who is in a lovely little green cube time trial bike, but is pushing it up the climb at the moment. And it is a difficult stage. It's by no means a flat time trial. Those seem to be a thing of the past, other than prologues. Long flat time trials have certainly gone out of fashion. However, it just offers up another opportunity for the big GC boys to show themselves and go for a stage win, notably Tadej Pogacar, of course. But Jonas, Vingegaard, and especially Remco Evenepoel will be intrigued in going for it, I am sure. Kevin Vauquelin is on the road now for Arkea B&B Hotels. Probably their best chance in a time trial. And at the moment, a rider looks like they're about to unseat Matej Mohoric in second place. Keep a keen eye on Luke Durbridge, who is second at the first intermediate check, second intermediate check, and third intermediate check, and as if by magic, he appears at the finish line, 2 minutes and 47 seconds down on Lenny Martinez. Looks like he's given it a 7 out of 10 go, maybe a 6. But to still finish second ahead of Matej Mohoric, good result from Turbo Durbo. And it's a nice little setup that they've got here. Durbridge looking around at the crowds, which clearly says he's not trying too hard. But it is a nice setup. Clearly paid spectators have come to sit at the finish line. And it's the closest that I've seen the Tour de France to a spectator sport. Vingegaard and Evenepoel continues to churn the pedals though. And his efforts from yesterday were just to stay within the time limit, like a lot of sprinters and a lot of the rest of the field that haven't had the Tour de France that they perhaps wanted or expected. He's churning his way up the second little rise at Col d'Ez for now. Just over the foot of that, and is probably about halfway up the climb now. He can see the summit and the second time check ahead of him. So we will see what time he does through that second time check. But here's what Vingegaard and Evenepoel had to say at the end of yesterday. From the start of the tour, we have really incredible teammates. All the staff, team managers and the boss I would like to say thank you to, because from the start we've had a really good atmosphere. And the team spirit as well. The riders especially are super nice guys. We don't have time to celebrate tomorrow, so we'll just celebrate now while we have enough time. We deserve it for sure. We did such an incredible job to protect this jersey. We gave everything we have. We also have the smallest budget of the World Tour teams, so to have 3 incredible victories and the green jersey is so amazing, especially for Laurens Rex and Ugo Page. This is their first Grand Tour for them, but they are super riders and I'm just happy to have them. If you see on paper, the last 2 days were such incredibly hard days, so you cannot gain any points. Luckily, Sunday is not in Paris, so you also cannot gain. That means the only thing you need to do is survive until the finish line. I just want to enjoy my day and to survive. And he has not troubled the times at all at the second time check, but he doesn't have to. Like he says, he just wants to make it through to the end of the stage. At the moment, he's gone 27th at 5 minutes and 44 seconds down, which is third from bottom. But the green jersey will not care at all. GC positions don't matter for him on a day like today. And it has been one of the great stories of this Tour de France. Perhaps the great story of this Tour de France. The emergence of Vingegaard and Evenepoel. And African cycling as a whole, really. Carrying it on his back. Although there are plenty of good African cyclists still out there. Black African cyclists, definitely. Emmanuel Gebrselassie in the Giro d'Italia being one of them for Little Trek. Perhaps doing the Vuelta as well. I haven't checked the start list. But teams will just be beginning to focus on the Vuelta. Stefan Bissegger, very good in the prologues. similar to Sergio Varenshold, but the live time check suggests that he is not suited to this course, which he absolutely isn't. Already a minute 45 down on Lenny Martinez after 15 minutes in the saddle, but he's going to go past some Swiss support, which will at least increase his tempo. A little word to those Swiss supporters holding the flags at the side of the road. And it looks like every nation seems to be having a little corner on this climb. We had Swiss corner, then the next one was Danish corner, with plenty of people with mini Danish flags as well. So Girmay continues his descent, a rider who is just looking to finish within the time limit. And probably not finish last, just as a little motivation. In the TT handlebars, and you've got to be careful on the time trial bike with the disc wheel to not hit the deck going down this descent, because it is slightly technical. And we will get to Victor Campenaerts, who is probably about to set off, because he had some very interesting views of the route. Girmay continues his descent then. And he's got 14 kilometres to go until he reaches the finish line. At the moment, my screen with the time checks on it is ahead of the Eurosport feed that I am watching at the moment. So I'm going to flick between the two as we get the drone shot once more of Biniam Girmay going down the descent. Clearly got a skilled pilot to monitor that drone, because at the moment he's squeezing it between him and the Intermarché team car. The camera motorbike kind of panned to that drone as if to say, that machine is taking my job. But Girmay presses on for Intermarché Wanty, who have had a super Tour de France. We will discuss that in the tier list segment at the end of this stream and at the end of the stage. We've got all the teams and we will put them into tiers based on how their Tour de France has ended up. Of course, we can't do it during the stream because there's one stage still to be played out, and that is occurring at the moment. Victor Campenaerts sets off then, and he's got big ideas ahead of stage 21. Here's what he had to say about the stage this morning. Campenaerts said, "It's a hard stage. There's a long climb at the start. It's somewhat fast. I think everybody with ambitions for the stage result or GC goes on the time trial bike, but the downhill is tricky. The only reconnaissance I did was just now, and for sure that's not enough to do a good result. But about every GC contender lives in Monaco, so they will know the downhill by heart. It is a bit tricky. There's quite a lot of wind, and because the Col d'Ez is really slow, and the last section with the climb the same, you need to go for the full aero setup. So everybody will ride disc wheels, which makes it a bit twitchy in the downhill. Let's see, because the weather conditions can be unpredictable today. When it's rainy, there is no chance for those that go. You will lose heaps of time in the downhill." And at the moment, the conditions are fine as Brian Cocard has crested the first climb of the day and is onto the descent towards the Col d'Ez rise. That's the steeper of the two, however, is much shorter on the route, and you don't climb it, I don't think, from the foot. So that's a positive for anybody that doesn't enjoy the road going uphill. But a word of warning from Victor Campenaerts about the weather conditions, because it does look a little bit temperamental. The sun is not out, and it is not a roasting day by any means. So you've got to be wary of conditions changing. Of course, it won't affect the GC, at least with them being all together now towards the finish, and of course them being done in GC order. As Campenaerts heads out of Monaco, he's done the Formula 1 track segment of the circuit. will then take a 180-degree left-hander hard onto the brakes into that corner, and will gradually begin making his way uphill fairly shortly to the summit of the initial climb. We've got some updates at time checks because Raul Garcia Piena and Matteo Verchier have gone within 2 minutes of Lenny Martinez. They've slotted into second and third at time check number 1, so it'll be worth keeping an idea on how they're going towards the finish line. And it'll be worth keeping an eye on Victor Campenaerts, because this is our first bona fide time trialist on the road. However, prefers a flat, rolly time trial to what we have at the moment, which is a much harder test on the legs. But Campenaerts showed in the last stage that he can compete with the GC guys. Admittedly, it was an easier course. However, don't underestimate Vauxhall. Verchier and Kwiatkowski did that at their peril a couple of stages ago on stage 18. And Victor Campenaerts got an incredible stage win. Arnaud Delis then makes his way towards the finish. Final left turn. And onto the final straight he comes. More than 5 minutes down on Lenny Martinez, so isn't troubling the top of the leaderboards. He slots into 14th position at 5 minutes and 11 seconds behind the Groupama FDJ rider. So at the moment, Lenny Martinez is leading the way in terms of the early pace setting. And here's who I had my eye on going into this stage as to riders that would set the early pace on a stage like today. Axel Zongler sending it down this descent at the moment, getting as aero as he possibly can. But yeah, here are the riders that I had circled as early pace setters for the day. One of them will come a bit later on in the stage, but 2 of them are on the road at the moment. And that is Victor Campenaerts, Neilson Paulus and Mathieu van der Poel, as Verchier crosses the second intermediate time check at 2 minutes and 6 seconds down. He is pushing on his debut Tour de France for Total Energy and got a dream result again on stage 18. Third position, well no, not even third, second for Verchier, out sprinting Michał Kwiatkowski. But there was the chance of the stage win lingering in front of him. Arkea BNBL tells on the radio to Kevin Vauquelin, saying, "Perfect, don't hesitate to use your derailleur today. Lower the gear, keep a good cadence, exactly like that. Allez." So here are my 3 riders to watch do the early pace setting. Campenaerts and Van der Poel will set the time to beat, at least I think in a respectable manner compared to Lenny Martinez. Van der Poel, I'm kind of hoping, keeps his time trial form that we saw on the Tour de France of 2021 when he was in that yellow jersey and did a super job to retain it on the time trial bike. So I'm hoping he's kept a little bit of that time trialing skill and will use it today. It's a bit of a gamble because I know he's saving himself for the Olympic Games road race and all of the rest of his objectives for the season. And he's not had a very good Tour de France in terms of being competitive, and as competitive as he is in the classics, certainly. As Stefan Bissegger rolls through the first time check at around 24:30, he moves himself. Sorry, that was the second time check, wasn't it? He was second at intermediate time check 1. And at intermediate time check 2, he looks to be around 3 minutes down, which will put him just outside the top 5. But those are the 3 riders that I'm looking at to set the early pace setting. Neilson Paulus is definitely one to watch. Somebody who finished in the top 10 of the time trial at the Critérium du Dauphiné and mixed it with a lot of the GC favourites on a day like that. And he goes fairly early, so keep an eye on Paulus. as somebody who could go for the stage win. So that's where we stand. And we've got a national time trial champion ready to get on the route. Tim Wellens sets off for UAE Team Emirates. Now, he's somebody who has struggled with illness at this Tour de France. However, could set a good time on this time trial. Again, showed his presence in the Belgian National Championships time trial, winning that ahead of some stiff competition in that discipline. So yeah, he's a bit of a wild card for today, Tim Wellens of UAE Team Emirates, and has been a domestique for Tadej Pogacar. Not probably done as much as he would have liked at this tour. However, illness has bugged him. So he has a viable excuse in that regard. But he has done all of the jobs he needs to do for his teammate, who took the stage win yesterday. Tobias Harlan Johannesson was in the breakaway yesterday, and here's what he had to say from the front of the race at the end of the stage. I felt like I couldn't win in the break, so then it's almost better that Tadej Pogacar got the win again, because then I couldn't do it anyway. But chapeau to him. It's crazy how strong he is, and I will probably do the same if I could get 4 or 5 wins during a Grand Tour. He's really dominant, but he's a cool guy, and you can see that he races with his heart. When he passed me, I said, "You promised the break," and then he said, "Sorry, but good job." So he's a nice guy and I admire him. If that was me, I'd go for the stage win every day, so I don't blame him at all. I would take 5 wins in the Tour every day of the week, so for sure I can understand, and he shows what's possible. I think it will just push the sport further, and it's up to us other people to come after him. It would be cool to beat him one day. I think if you would have said I could almost fight for a stage win 2 days ago, I wouldn't believe you. I'm already happy with the performance today. I am not too disappointed. Of course, Tobias Harlan Johannesson having that crash 3 days ago now on stage 18. Again, everything seems to loop back to stage 18. And Victor Companartz's win. But he was in the breakaway. Tobias Harlan Johannesson then crashed, of course, on that descent. Injured so badly that he couldn't come up and collect the combativity award that he later won on that stage, so had to get a team staff member to go up and collect the award for him. So a good result from Johannesson from that breakaway. And he was against some stiff competition, made it up late in a group that included Jasper Stuyven, Kevin Genietz, but held his own in that group. And for a rider who did have the incident a couple of days ago, it's a very good job from the Norwegian on Uno X Mobility, who are a team that we will discuss at the end of this stream. Have they had a good Tour de France? Have they not had a good Tour de France? We will decide that at the end of this stage. And how good or bad of a Tour de France will they have had? Or how average? Maybe they just sit comfortably in B tier. Again, we'll go through that at a later point. And it is worth keeping an eye on those time checks. Mathieu van der Poel has just gone second at intermediate time check 1, 51 seconds behind Lenny Martinez. So he is offering a little bit of a challenge, which is nice to see from one of my 3 ones to watch. Of course, Martinez, a much better climber, so there is no surprise of that. Clement Champoussin's just gone into 5th at the second intermediate time check, and he was one of my ones to watch for yesterday's stage. Did get into the breakaway, but had a mechanical while in that chasing group with the likes of Stuyven, as Biniam Girmay goes past a swathe of Eritrean support. Loads of Eritrean flags, a couple of umbrellas in Eritrean colours. Flags all over the side of the road. So that must have been a surreal feeling for Girmay of Intermarché Wanty. And he'll get a chance to loop back round and see them once more as he takes a 180-degree right. And once again, the camera will flick to that segment of Eritrean support on the road. And they're one rider at this tour has done their nation proud. Signs of support for Biniam Diomaye on the other side of the road as well. So the Eritreans are out in force on this final day of the Tour de France. But yeah, Clement Champoussin was one of my ones to watch yesterday. He got into the breakaway, so I'm counting that, as bogus as it sounds. Frank Vandenbroek didn't. Stephen Williams did a good job, however, sticking with that first group over the top of the first climb of the day when the race was really on. With a couple of Israel Premier Tech teammates as well, Derek G, of course, their GC leader, going into that day, and Jakob Fuglsang did a good ride. Not somebody you perhaps would have noticed in that leading group early on. However, he did very well to stick with some of the best at this Tour de France, and so did Stevie Williams, so I'm kind of taking that as a half point. So 1.5 out of 3 from yesterday. As Intermarché's Laurens Rex and Hugo Page wait for Biniam Diomaye to cross the finish line. He goes past that Eritrean support once more and will take a left-hander and begin his final road to the line, and will end off his Tour de France in green. Easy left-hander, not too fast around it, not taking the risks that we'll probably see the GC guys do, or those gunning for the stage win. Right-hander into one more lazy left, and then he will reach the finish line of what has been a remarkable Tour de France. Biniam Diomaye in green. The time is well over 6 minutes to Lenny Martinez, but he will not care one bit. A final wave to the fans, and he arrives in the company of Laurens Rex and Hugo Page, 2 riders on their debut tour, and 2 riders that he signalled in his post-race interview yesterday that he was incredibly proud of, and I'm sure they're incredibly proud of him. Off the TT bike he gets, and I'm sure he will be having a very enjoyable night. So Diomaye ends off his Tour de France in the green jersey and will be a very popular winner of that prize as well. But on the hot seat at the moment is Lenny Martinez of Groupama FDJ, and as things stand, he will be staying there for a little while longer as of yet, because the closest anybody's got to him at the moment is Mathieu van der Poel, and he is at over a minute down at intermediate checkpoint 1. As we see Brian Cocard, 3rd in the points classification. Great result for the Frenchman on Cofidis, who always likes to give the points classification a go. Staved off a challenge from Anthony Turgis in the final week to retain that 3rd position and that podium spot in the green jersey classification. And he's been somebody who's at least done the Cofidis colours proud in what has been a not brilliant tour for the Cofidis team. Stefan Bissegger is about to cross the line of intermediate time check 2. A good time trialist on his day and on his course, more importantly. However, won't be troubling the top of the times on today's stage. 3 minutes and 48 seconds down in 20th position on the road for the Swiss rider from EF. However, Mathieu van der Poel has a much better chance at troubling the times of the top 3 in that second intermediate time check. Raul Garcia sits second at the intermediate time check for now. He's at 1 minute and 44 seconds down on our leader at the moment, Lenny Martinez. Van der Poel comes to the line and sets 1 minute 28 behind Lenny Martinez, slotting into second place still. And he will gain time from here on out because it is a descent and a flat section to the line. He is on the road bike, so by the looks of things, he's had a bike change. And that could be a strategy that we see from other teams on a day like today. We will see who goes for the bike change and who doesn't. Victor Campenaerts thinks it's not the day for a bike change, and you should do it all on the time trial bike with the disc rear wheel. But maybe some outsiders in the GC who have nothing to lose and want to go for the stage win might just give it a try, given that they'd have no other option against some better competition in this race. Somebody who has had a sterling Tour de France is Nils Pollitt, who is about to set off for UAE Team Emirates. The German national time trial champion is underway, and a rider who has been one of the two key domestiques for UAE Team Emirates. I think Pollitt and Yates have been the best of that team, and Pollitt is now on the road. A very good time trialist on his day as well. Big rider who enjoys the discipline. They call him the giraffe, or at least he calls himself the giraffe. And another very good time trial specialist is Victor Campenaerts, who sits and passes a group of Belgian fans, one of them with a sign saying Allez Victor. So he has some support on the road, goes back into the skis as Biniam Girmay poses for a picture with Lawrence Rex and Hugo Page. And what a tour it has been for Bini. Possibly his dream Tour de France. 3 stage wins and the green jersey. Not to be sniffed at all, as Brion Cocard makes his way around a long right-hander that you can really rag at full speed. I'm sure we'll see some of the heavier riders come down that even quicker, and those that have reconned the course multiple times, as we get another view of Stefan Bissegger. Going back to stage 20 on one of the time trial favourites for today, who will be one of those riders taking the absolute limits around those final corners, is Remco Evenepoel. And here's what he had to say at the end of stage 20. A good result for him, sealing 3rd overall as of now. And barring extreme circumstances in this time trial, he will hold that. Mathieu van der Poel, by the way, is going down the descent on the road bike. So this was a tactical decision from Alpecin de Koning. And perhaps a decision from Van der Poel just to stay upright first before challenging the times. So Van der Poel's let my ones to watch label down slightly. However, I'm sure he'll be towards the front for the Olympics road race, which we might do a watch along of depending on whether I can find it or find a stream that I can watch it on. Hopefully Eurosport will oblige and show the full race, so we can just discuss things. And maybe we do a massive rider tier list from the Tour de France throughout the day. And just rank every single rider that's been at this race, because that is the degenerosity that you get in a stream like this one. Either way, here's what Remco was saying at the end of stage 20. He said, "We tried to put some pressure on. I wanted to fight to see if I could come closer to 2nd place, but Jonas, Vingegaard and Tadej Pogacar were both stronger. I need to be very happy and pleased with my 3rd spot. I think my legs were just empty and I didn't want to hear too much communication anymore, so I just wanted to focus on my effort. I knew when the guys attacked from my back that it was game over, and I just had to go for my own rhythm. In moments like that, I like to keep it calm and quiet, so I just wanted to keep it a little bit more easy, but I know the guys in the car are pushing me until the last meters. I understand that they were pushing me to the limit, but sometimes when you're full of acid, you don't want to hear anything, and that was the case a bit. I need to thank my team and the sports directors for the big work we did today. We tried, but in the end, we lost a bit. I think overall, I didn't lose anything. I'll go all in tomorrow, hoping that I can try for the stage, and it would be amazing to finish this Tour de France with a stage win. I'm happy, I'm third in the Tour. If you see the guys in front of me, it's Jonas, Vingegaard and Tadej Pogacar, the two best riders in the world, so I need to be happy with what I did. Jonas was on a bit of a bad day yesterday, so I tried to put a bit of pressure on his legs, but in the end you can see that he's a Grand Tour rider. He had a good day again today, and he dropped me, so I think it's fair enough to say that Tadej and Jonas are just better than me. I was best of the rest, so one more day to go. I feel very happy and very proud. What the team did today was pretty amazing to see in the last mountain stage of a Tour de France, which was really hard. I think we can be proud of what we did, and that we at least tried. I think until now, I can be super happy and satisfied with my first Tour de France, because it is still the first one for me. And he is the leading debutant in the Tour de France general classification. Good result from Remco Evenepoel, sitting in third position. At the first intermediate time check, Kevin Vauquelin has crossed the line 50 seconds down on Lenny Martinez. So one to keep an eye on. At least another young French talent who has won a stage at this Tour de France, as Biniam Girmay is with his child and posing with the Eritrean flag. He's about to do an interview with the host broadcast media. However, we'll pose for a photo, Eritrean flag in background, family there with him. And Kevin Vauquelin is heading up towards intermediate checkpoint 2. And he is going to go second fastest, 1 minute and 6 seconds down on Lenny Martinez. So at the moment, it's a French 1-2 at intermediate time check 2. And it's a French 1-2 in this stage for now, because Mathieu Verchet has crossed the line now in second place, gone ahead of Luke Durbridge. I'm not sure whether he'll be there for too long, because you've got Raul Garcia Piana and Mathieu van der Poel on the road. Maybe Van der Poel isn't going to challenge, with him being on a road bike for the quicker segments. However, for now, Verchet is 2 minutes and 22 seconds down on Lenny Martinez in second place overall. Clément Rousseau is about to overtake one of the riders on the road. That looks to be Brian Coquart of Cofidis. So Rousseau, the FDJ lead-out man, who has been promoted to the role of sprinter, given that they've taken no real quick guy to this race, is doing a good job in this time trial. Overtaken Coquart, who is just content with finishing. He's not got the biggest frame as Brian Coquart, so the time trial discipline does not suit him at all. Rousseau, the much bigger rider, and much more powerful for consistent periods on flat terrain, which is exactly what they're on at the moment, just closing in to the finish line for Clément Rousseau, and we will get the time fairly shortly. I suppose that he will pop up in this top 10 that we have on screen for now. And we will keep an eye on Groupama FDJ man, whose teammate is leading things at the moment. And we're gradually cracking through riders. I mean, only 10 riders had finished by the time we'd started this stream, if that even. But Rousseau goes into third position on the road, 2 minutes and 30 seconds behind Mathieu Verchet. So now France have a 1-2-3 screenshot. That, if you are French and a big cycling fan. And it's been a great tour for the French, not necessarily for the French teams, but the French riders definitely have done the job. Anthony Turgis for Total Energy and Kevin Vauquelin for not Decathlon Desert. I keep falling into the Decathlon Desert trap. And Kevin Vauquelin for Arkea B&B Hotels provided stage wins early on in this race. And it has just been a super, super tour for the French in terms of stage win conversions. However, the big French teams, you'd argue Groupama FDJ and Decathlon Age Desert, have not really provided the results that we were expecting of them heading into this Tour de France. But there we go. Of course, you add on to Vauquelin and Turgis's wins on the road. The win of Romain Bardet, the biggest French win of them all, on stage 1, taking the yellow jersey. And they were going on a little dominant streak. 3 wins in the first week for the French. And a yellow jersey for a day. On their home race. That's much better than we usually get in recent years from the home nation. But Kevin Vauquelin is on the road and is churning out a big gear on this descent. Team radio from Arkea B&B Hotels has gone to him. But another rider from that team may be about to unseat this French top 3, and he does. 1 minute 33 down for Raul Garcia Piana of Spain. However, it is a French team top 4. Clinging on to that for the French audience that may watch this stream. So Garcia Piana crosses in second place, just under 1 minute and 33 seconds behind Lenny Martinez in a time of 49 minutes 57 seconds. Anybody below 50 minutes has done a decent job in this early segment of the race. And Raul Garcia Piana has done just that. As Biniam Diomaye is being interviewed by the world's media, and he looks chuffed to bits with his tour, and rightfully so. Victor Campenaerts has crossed the first intermediate time check at 30 seconds down on Lenny Martinez, which is good for a rider that isn't a pure climber like Lenny Martinez is. We will see his main segment will be that second intermediate time check onwards, down the descent, and then especially on the flat section between the third intermediate check and the finish line. But Martinez looks very happy in the Tissot hot seat, and he's about to see his closest competition on the screen for now, because Victor Campenaerts has a rider within range and a rider to chase on the road. 44 seconds down, says the live timings on the TV feed that I have at the moment. And he is going up this Col des Rise. He did say that he's not going to be troubling the stage win on the roads, and that he's got to be prepared to at least keep it on the tarmac. And somebody who's taking a lot of risks at the moment is the young Frenchman Kevin Vauquelin of Arkea B&B Hotels, throwing the bike around some of these corners. Campenaerts has Ryan Gibbons ahead of him, the South African time trial champion, as well as the South African road race champion. However, Campenaerts is only focused on the second intermediate time check at 17.1 kilometres and how he compares to Lenny Martinez. He was 30 seconds down at time check number 1. At time check number 2, he's going to be a bit further behind, 48 seconds in total. And Ryan Gibbons lets Campenaerts go. Takes the wide line around the left-hander just after the second time check. And Campenaerts has passed Ryan Gibbons on the road. So Campenaerts slots into second place at the second intermediate time check between Kevin Vauquelin and Lenny Martinez. We will see Mathieu van der Poel cross the line, I'm sure of that, on the road bike. And it mustn't be too long until he reaches that finish. I don't think it will be a competitive time from Van der Poel, based on the way he's fallen gradually down this list as time has gone on. And here is Mathieu van der Poel. On screen at the moment, he's got just over 2.5 kilometres until he reaches the finish line, does Van der Poel. At intermediate time check 3, he's in third position at 1 minute and 50 seconds down. And somebody who's done the time trial on his road bike. So Van der Poel completing the time trial on the road bike, the first rider that I've seen that isn't using the time trial bike and the disc wheel. So that is Victor Kampenaerts's A game, is the time trial bike. Mathieu van der Poel insisting not to use that, but still setting competitive times, which might throw some of the strategy up into the air. I don't think it will, because the time trial bike is the much better option in terms of time. However, it doesn't seem to be as much of a difference as I was first expecting. Kevin Vauquelin, though, on the road, will probably jump above Mathieu van der Poel, especially now we get to the flat section where aero matters more than anything. All Van der Poel can do to get aero is get into the drops and churn the pedals. But he will press on and should slot into the top 5 if all things go well. However, Luke Durbridge, we remember, is a super time trialist when the road goes flat and has a massive engine, and Clément Rousseau is a big guy with a big engine as well. Somebody else who would have been better if this time trial was much flatter was Stefan Bissegger. He's not troubled the time checks at any of these points on the route, and is going to cross the line just outside the top 10, well over 3.5 minutes behind Lenny Martinez. Maybe might just hit 4 as he crosses the finish line. But Bissegger, part of an EF team that got their stage wins late on through Richard Carapaz, finishes 3 minutes and 57 seconds down in 14th overall. Christopher Juhl Jensen has just arrived at the line as well. He's at 3 minutes and 4 down in 8th position. So a competitive time from the Danish rider on Jacob Alula. And Alpecin-Deceuninck have Axel Laurence in the top 10. They will soon have Mathieu van der Poel in the top 10. Should be beating the 3 minutes and 10 seconds down that Axel Laurence was on Lenny Martinez, as Van der Poel just crosses over the 50-minute mark. So he's approaching 2 minutes behind, and he crosses the line at 2 minutes and 11 seconds behind. In third place. So a good time from Van der Poel, especially considering he's been on the road bike for the whole of the stage. And our road world champion is on the road bike, but finishes the time trial in podium position as things stand. However, should be unseated by Victor Kampenaerts and Kevin Vauquelin, who at the moment are sat second and third at both intermediate time check 1 and intermediate time check 2. Nils Pollitt, a quandary. He might trouble the times, depending on how he wants to race this. However, I wouldn't be surprised after such a stressful Tour de France working as a teammate for the favourite in GC for him to be just taking it easy. However, might want to honour the German time trial champion's jersey, as Kampenaerts is settling onto the wheel of Ryan Gibbons, who has repassed the Belgian. And I don't think Kampenaerts wants to take too many risks on this descent, by the looks of things. Gibbons, slightly bigger of the two riders, however not by much, and I expected Victor Kampenaerts to at least hold his way ahead of Ryan Gibbons to the finish line. He might pass him once more on the flat section when the engine can be used once again, but Kampenaerts is now sat behind Ryan Gibbons on the road. Gibbons, the national champion of South Africa and the national champion of Portugal, at least I'm assuming, in the time trial, should be João Almeida, who has his teammate Nils Pollitt on the road at the moment. another one of the domestiques for Tadej Pogacar. Here's what he had to say at the end of stage 20. We didn't want Tadej Pogacar to go for the stage. Soudal Quickstep put on the pace, and in the end, it was super close on the last climb. I was feeling pretty okay, so I just set a good pace. I think it was good for everyone. Also, I put some time on Mikel Landa just to be safe for tomorrow. I upped the pace, so was cutting time to the breakaway, and then Tadej attacked for the stage. The plan wasn't for that to happen, but it was so close that we thought, why not? It's a good opportunity, and we have to grab the opportunities that we have. Defending 4th on GC was also important for us, and I'm super satisfied so far. Let's finish it off tomorrow. My mum, dad, sister, girlfriend and little puppy are all here at the finish line of stage 20. The support I get is pretty amazing. It's super important for me to have the support of my family. And it was a cute little picture of him and his dog at the finish line when talking to Anders Milker of Eurosport. And he should be somebody that could be looking at the stage win into Nice by the time this stage wraps up. Somebody else who should be troubling the top of the times, at least for now, is Victor Campenaerts. And he is going down the descent of Col d'Ez. He's got a rider that he can follow at the very least, so somebody that can at least provide a gauge of breaking points and trajectories into these switchbacks and 90-degree corners that Campenaerts has to traverse. Ryan Gibbons is kind of his lead-out man on this sort of terrain. And you've got to be hard on the brakes into a 180-degree right-hander. Of course, Campenaerts winning stage 18 in a sprint ahead of Mathieu Verchet and Michał Kwiatkowski. So he's got the stage win that he really wanted. I doubt he'll be winning on today's route. However, anything can happen and the weather can change at any point. And Victor Campenaerts was well aware of the weather in his interview pre-stage, basically saying that if it rains, and it might, the GC guys are going to be nowhere near the stage win if they go when it's raining, because the descent will just be too dangerous for them. Simon Geschke crosses the line in 11th for Cofidis. Sits up on his bike and takes in the acclaim of the crowd. And he's a rider who's been very quiet at this Tour de France. Perhaps could have had a crack at the King of the Mountains jersey early on. However, Jonas Abrahamsson was in control of that classification throughout the first week. Tim Wellens crosses the second intermediate time check at 2 minutes behind Lenny Martinez in 8th position on the road. So I don't think he'll be troubling the time of the young Frenchman at the finish. Been suffering with illness. However, looks to be fighting through as best as he can and giving his 100% on today's stage. So that's the Wellens situation. As the German Simon Geschke dries himself off with a towel. And we've got a new second place at intermediate time check 1. Harold Tejada has been the first rider to get within 30 seconds of Lenny Martinez at the opening time check. So the Astana man is one to watch when he comes to the finish. A rider that can climb very well, so is suited to that terrain. As Kevin Vauquelin makes it an Arkea B&B Hotels 2-3, crossing the line 58 seconds down on Lenny Martinez. And going ahead of his teammate Raul Garcia Pierna on the road. Competitive time from Vauquelin, who was sending it on the descent and taking plenty of risks, so he was looking for a positive stage placing, and he's got one at the moment, second place on the road, behind a fellow French talent in the form of Lenny Martinez. Vauquelin went loud at this Tour de France, especially in the first week, but Martinez has been very quiet up until this point. perhaps would have been a sleeper pick, though, for today's stage if you believed in the FDJ rider, who is very happy that he remains on the hot seat as things stand. And he should be able to stay there, especially with Victor Campenaerts seemingly losing time on this descent for a while longer yet. Dorian Godon is well underway in his time trial effort and is midway down the descent. However, reaching the end of the descent now is Victor Campenaerts, who takes a right-hander, and it is flat from this point onwards. Crosses the intermediate time check line at 42 minutes and 58 seconds, which is 40 seconds down. That doesn't make too much sense, but there we are. Maybe they're judging it at a different point to where the line is. So he's got a big attempt to try and close to Lenny Martinez in 5 kilometers of flat. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, but he's going to give it a good crack. Campenaerts gets into the skis and begins his effort. Can he trouble Lenny Martinez at the finish line? Martinez might be quaking a little bit in the hot seat that he was happy to stay in after Kevin Vauquelin crossed the line in second position. And at the moment, his mountain teammate David Gaudu is 5 minutes into his time trial effort. He's got 30 kilometres remaining of the day. And again, another quiet tour for David Gaudu. However, he is a rider that quietly slots himself into the top 10 of GC on plenty of occasions. He's not done that this year, and has just been well off the pace compared to what we usually expect from Gaudu at a Tour de France. But he's making his way up the hills of Monaco. Plenty of fans on the side of the road. And it's a good course, I think, for fan engagement. Monaco, of course, being an incredibly affluent part of the world. And Frank van den Broek is underway, one of my ones to watch from yesterday's stage. Was the only rider not to really show anything in terms of stage performance. However, we have a new third place. Michael Matthews sprinted to the line, but just about finished behind Kevin Vauquelin on the road. Just under a minute down on Lenny Martinez. So he is a rider that's put in 100%, and another rider who is putting in a good amount into this time trial is Victor Campenaerts. His efforts are not too far from ending. There isn't long to go until the Belgian crosses the line. Former world hour record holder, so knows a lot about individual efforts against the clock. Can he convert it into a hot seat position? I think he's a little too far down to show that. As a fan, has been given the race number of Simon Geschke and has been reduced to tears, which is lovely to see. Shout out Simon Geschke. May not have had the Tour de France in a competitive manner that he'd have hoped for, but is always one of the nice guys in the peloton. But Campenaerts may be out to ruin a man's day. He's 20 seconds behind Lenny Martinez. And he's done just over half of his effort, and he has halved the gap. So can Victor Campenaerts trouble the time of the young Frenchman, a time trial specialist against a climbing specialist on a time trial for the climbers, as Neilson Paulus sets off? So our final one to watch for the early pace setting is Neilson Paulus. And he is underway for his efforts on the road for EF Education Easy Post. Campenaerts back into the skis. And is another one of my riders to watch for the early pace setting. Mathieu van der Poel has missed the mark ever so slightly. However, Campenaerts will be the next rider to cross the finish line. And can he trouble Lenny Martinez at the top of the leaderboards? And can he pass him He's got a long section of flat road to try and gain some time, but Martinez will benefit, of course, from the corners into that final straight to the finish line. Van der Poel at the moment sits in 6th position and didn't trouble Lenny Martinez at all. Thomas Gachinot has slotted himself into the top 5. And Harold Tejada is over the second time check at 36 seconds behind. So he's lost 13 seconds compared to his first intermediate time. However, is staying within a competitive margin. And so is Bart Lemon, who's 42 seconds down at the first intermediate time check. He's in 4th at that point on the road for now for Visma Lease Bike. A rider that has arrived late to the World Tour, however, is good in the time trial. And somebody else who's good in the time trial is Victor Campenaerts. The clock ticks down and it looks like it's going to go against the Belgian. Lenny Martinez will survive for another couple of minutes at least in the hot seat, because Victor Campenaerts is about to cross the line and set a time that is going to put him in 2nd place comfortably, 14 seconds behind Lenny Martinez. So he has been the closest challenger to Lenny Martinez for now, crosses the line, takes a look at the time, sees himself in 2nd place, and might be a little bit miffed that he couldn't reach Lenny Martinez's time, perhaps paying for his slightly poor descent where he was overtaken by one of the riders he'd previously passed on the uphill to Col d'Ez, Ryan Gibbons, who follows him across the line. So Campenaerts 14 seconds down on Lenny Martinez. So hasn't gone first and hasn't gone into the hot seat, but somebody that might is Neilson Powless, a rider who showed his time trialling prowess at the Dauphiné this year. Can he repeat the feat at the Tour de France? And a fellow American who has done very well at this tour is Matteo Jorgensen. On his first Grand Tour for Visma Lease Bike, here's what he had to say at the end of stage 20. I'm really proud of Jonas Vingegaard. To be 2nd in the Tour de France after what he's been through this year is epic. I wasn't doubting anything today. He said he was feeling good in the morning and he put his ankle issue behind him, so he's one of the best in the world. And the first we're hearing of an ankle issue for Jonas Vingegaard. I had no doubts. It's amazing to finish high in GC, but it's no consolation for yesterday. I wish I could say this so, but no. Yesterday was painful. I'm really proud of this team. Literally every single day we fought. We did it tactically perfect. I can't think of one mistake we made. In the end, it was the legs that spoke, and that's how the Tour de France should be, I think. It's the biggest endurance test in the world, and this year Tadej Pogacar was on another level. Yesterday, I felt like I just gave the mountain points away for free. Richard Carapaz didn't even have to sprint for them. And I don't know why I did that. He wasn't really contributing so much in the stage that I was in a breakaway with him, so I just thought today I'm at least going to make him sprint for it. So I guess he didn't expect it because yesterday he had a free ride. It was just a bit of fun. I have a lot to learn from Jonas Vingegaard. His mental strength and work ethic is impressive to me. He's one of the best in the world for a reason. He works super hard and is such a humble guy. I'm really happy for him. You can tell he uses his head on the bike. He's always thinking, always attentive, and someone I can really learn a lot from. The tank is on empty right now, so I'm going to have a big dinner tonight and hope for the best tomorrow. And Jorgensen is sat in the top 10 overall, so will be one of the latest riders to head off on the road. Paul Lapeyrat with a big thumbs up to the Decathlon Age Desert La Mondiale team car. The French road race champion showed the jersey a couple of times towards the front of the peloton at the Tour de France. However, has been trumped by 3 other French riders who have all delivered stage wins, those being Kevin Vauquelin on stage 2, Anthony Turgis on stage 9, and the biggest of them all, Romain Bardet, who won stage 1 and moved into the yellow jersey. David Gaudu is well into his effort now. The last we saw of him was at 5 minutes into his effort. He's now approaching 14 minutes into the effort, and he is halfway up La Turbie. 8-kilometre climb overall. And cresting the top of the Col d'Ez is Bart Lemon, who retains his top 5 spot in the intermediate time checks. He's dropped below Kevin Vauquelin, but I'm sure he won't mind. And he's setting competitive times. Is the ruler from Visma Lease Bike. Harold Tejada's taking risks on the descent, and he's got a rider that he can follow now from Decathlon Azure Desert. Tejada at the moment sits second at the second intermediate time check, 37 seconds down on Lenny Martinez, and he's closing the gap on this descent. The live timings say he's around just between 20 and 25 seconds down on the road. And we will see whether he can pull it back, similarly to what Victor Campenaerts did at the final segment between checkpoint 3 and the finish. We were speaking earlier of Geschke. Another German rider who's been relatively quiet at this Tour de France is Georg Zimmermann, albeit part of a very entertaining team to watch, and a team who have punched well above their expectations, as Biniam Girmay was saying at the end of stage 20 in his interview, Intermarché Wanty. As we've seen, Magnus Cort in the blue moustache start fairly recently. Another rider who has shown his colours at this Tour de France is Jonas Abrahamsson, former polka dot jersey wearer, and pretty incredible on the flat as well. So it's interesting to see what he can do on a stage like today. Massive engine inside the Norwegian. How will he deal with this 34-kilometre test that lies ahead of him? Underway he goes, out of the streets of Monaco, down the main Formula 1 straight into Saint-Devote. However, they take the Formula E route of previous years and immediately go downhill rather than uphill, unlike the Formula 1 track, which goes uphill to the likes of Casino Square, which we will go through, just from the opposite direction, as we get views of Monaco and all the high-rise buildings and posh apartments. Home of the rich and famous, Tadej Pogacar and Michael Matthews included, going on rides with Carlos Sainz, Max Verstappen and plenty of the other Formula 1 drivers. However, somebody who just says it as it is Adam Yates from Bury, which is the total opposite to Monaco, I've got to say, as a Brit. Yates said at the end of yesterday's stage, "Today we were quite happy with the breakaway. We even had Marc Soler up there to give him some opportunities as well. He's worked super hard in the whole 3 weeks, so it's nice to give back sometimes. But Quick Step paced really hard and it all came back together." Then Tadej Pogacar does what he does best. We wanted to save as much energy as possible. Normally we have Paris and we can have a few drinks and celebrate, but we have to go full gas for tomorrow's TT. Then Quick Step started chasing with the whole team and they did a really good job. Even the last climb went super fast. It's been a hard 3 weeks, but it's been a pleasure to be a part of the team, and there's one more day. You never know. Last year, I think we all did pretty good numbers and we still lost a lot of time. Now we have a pretty good gap. I think 5 minutes now. It's quite big. For me personally, these aren't the best numbers I've seen. I've been a bit sick for the last week, but for Tadej, he's flying. He's not really done anything wrong, made any mistakes, had any illness or setbacks, so he's arrived here in top shape, and you can see what he does. And what Jonathan Castroviejo does, especially in previous years is go very fast on the time trial bike. Former European champion in this discipline for the Ineos Grenadiers, he is underway and following Jonas Abrahamsson, which is a very good duo to have on the road. 90 seconds Castroviejo sits behind Abrahamsson based on the timings, and the timings at the moment are showing that Harold Tejada has gone all out on this descent. He's closed 32 seconds if the TV timings are to be believed, and is within 4 seconds of Lenny Martinez at the lead of this time trial. Big effort from Harold Tejada, the Colombian on Astana, and he's looking to unseat the French rider on Groupama FDJ, who is at the moment in the hot seat. One rider that isn't going to challenge him is Tim Wellens. However, the Belgian might move into the top 10 with this performance, sat 7th and stays 7th, crossing the line 2 minutes and 6 seconds behind. And finishing off his Tour de France, he will now wait for his team leaders in the top 10, Adam Yates, Joao Almeida and Tadej Pogacar, to cross the line and finish their prospective tours and have a very positive debrief, I'm sure, in the UAE team bus. He's got a couple of swan years to help him at the finish line. All of those look pretty pleased with the performance of the team throughout this Tour de France. And there's no surprise, because Tadej Pogacar will be the winner of this tour. I am fairly sure, 99.99999% sure, by the end of tonight. So the situation is Lenny Martinez at the moment leads at the finish line 14 seconds ahead of Victor Campenaerts in second. However, Harold Tejada has just turned the clock green against Lenny Martinez based on the live timings. So he is one we are eagerly watching as he's got less than 5 kilometres left of his effort. We saw Victor Campenaerts close a massive gap on the final 5 kilometres of flat section. Can Harold Tejada do the same? Lenny Martinez looks slightly worried, a grimace towards the camera of him in the hot seats, and he's very much enjoying his time in the hot seat, playing up to the TV footage and the crowds by making plenty of worried faces at the moment for Harold Tejada and celebrating his mini victories over Kevin Vauquelin, Victor Campenaerts and various other riders on the road. But his latest challenge comes from Harold Tejada, who, as it stands with 4.2 kilometres remaining, is 3 seconds up. Can he unseat Lenny Martinez? Five seconds to go for Wout van Aert, who in the Red Bull time trial helmet sets off for his effort. Of course, a rider who is very good in the time trials, but doesn't have a great history with time trials in the Tour de France. Remember that freakish crash that he had a few years ago. However, on his day, can really challenge in this discipline and will be one of the riders to watch at the top of the time checks, as will Harold Tejada as things stand, but we are not flicking to him for now. Sticking with Wout van Aert, the Belgian on Visma Lease bike, who I think will be very happy with their Tour de France, despite not winning with Jonas Vingegaard. Van Aert just going alongside the left-hand curbing of the circuit and will soon go through the famous bridge on the Formula 1 circuit. Will emerge out the other end and then start climbing once more. And he has well over 30 kilometres to pace himself, and a rider with his experience will certainly do that very well. But where is Harold Tejada? I want to see Harold Tejada. When is the screen going to flick to the Astana rider? And where can I see the live timings compared to Lenny Martinez? Because this looks nail-bitingly close for the rider from Groupama FDJ. Stuck on Wout van Aert at the moment, but I want to see what Harold Tejada's doing. Can we see the live? Unfortunately not. At least if you want the footage. Yeah, I just don't want to get struck down. I had a friend who showed the footage for about 5 seconds on full screen and immediately got his channel taken down. So I'm not risking it, Paulie. I'm sure you can go elsewhere if you want to find an actual stream. We're just doing commentary on this this channel. But yeah, I'm not going to be showing any of the actual race footage just because I want the channel to stay up. I hope you understand. But David Gaudu is struggling. Just under 1:40 down as things stand on his teammate, Lenny Martinez. And he is not troubling any of the time checks. For the time being, somebody who should trouble the final time check will be Harold Tejada, but somehow we have not switched to him still during this race. The last we saw of him was just under 5 kilometers to go, and it was as close as you could get. There was about a hair's width separating Martinez and Tejada virtually on the road, and now Tejada's got 600 metres left of his effort. We've finally got a camera back on him, and the clock ticks down. This is looking much better than Victor Kampenaerts' scenario. He's got 40 seconds to do 400 metres on the road. Important left-hander. Tejada makes it round there without too much problem. Gets out of the saddle and tries to sprint to the line. He's got 220 metres to go, and I think he might just do this. Tejada indeed goes fastest, and we have a new rider in the hot seat. And of all the teams to be at the top in the time trial for now, it is Astana, Kazakhstan by 10 seconds. So Lenny Martinez unseated was a very fun rider to watch in the hot seat. Possibly a career in drama for him after his career in cycling. And he's been on that hot seat for well over an hour, Martinez. A puff of the cheeks. Well, not well over an hour. Well over probably half an hour. A puff of the cheeks from Martinez. Actually, probably over an hour. A puff of the cheeks from Martinez at the very least. And he will be replaced by Harold Tejada, who was behind at all 3 intermediate time checks, but really pulled it back on the descent and the flat section to unseat the young French talent on Groupama FDJ. And somebody who will be keen on unseating both of those riders is Wout van Aert. Victor Kampenaerts at the moment the best placed Belgian in 3rd position. Van Aert will be coming for that crown, I am sure of that. He's 5 minutes into his effort and has 30 kilometres of the day remaining. And Visma Lease Bike have 2 riders who have been in and around the front 5. The other being Bart Lemon, who will cross the line soon as Visma Lease Bike's first rider to do so. At the finish, Wout van Aert will be the second, and will probably set a much more competitive time than his teammate and challenge those at the top. So as a reminder, your top 5 in order at the moment. 5th is Michael Matthews. 2 seconds ahead of the Australian is Kevin Vauquelin, and then we get into the riders within a minute of our leader. Victor Kampenaerts 24 seconds behind, Lenny Martinez at 10 seconds, and Harold Tejada is our latest leader. Jonas Abrahamsson is a real wild card on this terrain. I've not seen too much of him in the time trial. However, I think he's going to be challenging. We will see how the first time check goes, Lenny Martinez was quickest at that point at 21 minutes 20. Harold Tejada did a time of 21:43. What will Jonas Abrahamsson do? And what might Nilsson Paulus do? I've not seen any of him on the road since he set off. One of my 3 ones to watch. The final one to watch in terms of the early pace setting. We've seen Van der Poel. We've seen Campenaerts. Can Nilsson Paulus provide me at least an attempt at 3 for 3? I'll call it 2.5 because Campenaerts didn't do too well. However, I'm proud of my Van der Poel shout with him being on a road bike. And at least that's something different that you can keep an eye on. Mathieu Bergerot, first we've seen of him on the course, heading towards the second intermediate time check at the top of Col d'Ez, goes into 6th position, 1 minute and 23 seconds down on Lenny Martinez as things stand, who is no longer watching this from the Tissot hot seat. He will head off to the Groupama FDJ bus and probably watch the remainder of this stage. Maybe grab a pizza from Tour de Titema as well, depending on whether he put an order in. But Wout van Aert continues his efforts. How much is he going to put into this final time trial? And how much has he got left in the tank to put in as well? Another of the flat rulers on the GC teams is Nils Pollitt, who looks to have taken this time trial fairly easily and will just meander his way to the finish line. Heading towards the line, will finish just outside the top 20, gives a wave and a thumbs up to the crowd. And the German time trial champion finishes 22nd at 3 minutes and 31 seconds behind Harold Tejada, our new leader on the road. But Pollitt won't mind. He's part of a winning GC team and was an integral part of that winning GC team as a important domestique for Tadej Pogacar. Looking at the times, Nilsson Paulus has gone 3rd at intermediate time check 1, 27 seconds down on Lenny Martinez and 4 seconds behind Harold Tejada. Davide Formolo slotted into the top 5 at intermediate checkpoint 2 as well. So he might be somebody who will be in and around that top 10 by the time he gets to the line for Movistar. So a couple of names to keep eyes on there, as Pollitt very much enjoyed his day out on the time trial bike. Somebody else who's on course at the moment, albeit seemingly not imposing any of his times on the time check. Let's see how far he is down. Is he yet to go? He might be yet to go, you know. Never mind. Where is he on the road? Let's have a look. Let's try and search for this man. We will eventually find him. In fact, he'll be right at the bottom, I think, because that's where the intermediates are. Here we go. Okay. He is yet to set a time at the first check, but he is on the road. He set off around 10 minutes ago. So I think that's an excuse to go to an interview with him. And he lets his thoughts be well aware at the end of stage 20. And that man was Canada's Ugo Uhl of Israel Premier Tech. Here's what he had to say at the end of stage 20. It's always a privilege to do the Tour de France. When you're there, you have to enjoy it and give it your maximum. It's an honour to be there, so of course Derek G, with his great riding, made the team want to push even more for him, like you saw today in the hills. That's great to have a good leader like him. He's done a fantastic tour for his first time. Whatever happens tomorrow, we can leave the race proud, and I'm sure we'll come back for more. I was present in a few breakaways, and I was strong in the third week. You see how the race goes, there's not much left on the table. So I was there, healthy, competitive and strong. I'm proud of the race I've done, and the tour is always hard, but I was in the game. I could do a lot of work for the team, so I am happy in that regard. Hugo's thoughts at the end of stage 20. He had plenty of other things to say as well, which we will go through as he goes along in this time trial. And our second rider to set off on the road bike is on course. It's from Uno X Mobility, and it's Kulset. Of course, related to the owner of the team. A little bit of nepotism in the way he was added, Jonas Kulset, to the Tour de France team. However, is a good rider on his day and probably deserved the call-up. Hasn't had the greatest Tour de France in terms of performance, but I don't think he'll mind. It's his debut tour, and he's going to finish it as long as he stays upright on his road bike in this time trial. Under the bridge he goes, and his effort is underway. So our second rider, Mathieu van der Poel, led the way and piloted this road bike revolution in the time trial. Jonas Kulset is the second rider to blink. And we will have our little road bike championship that goes on. Van der Poel has set the benchmark time of 50 minutes and 35 seconds. So let's see whether Jonas Kulset can beat that on the road bike. Of course, it gives you advantages in the first couple of time checks. However, when the road flattens out, you start to get in trouble. Because you can't get into as aero of a position and can't go as fast on the flat terrain. So one to keep an eye on then, Jonas Kulset. As at the moment, we have a drone's view of David Gaudu, who hasn't troubled any of the time checks. 63rd overall for a rider who has been in the top 10 of a few Tour de France's of the past. And somebody who hasn't tasted a win at this Tour de France, similar to Wout van Aert, who might be wanting to break that duck today. Going past the Belgian support, one rider with a big cardboard cutout of his Mont Ventoux win in the Belgian National Championships jersey. One of the most famous wins for him, and a serial winner at this Tour de France, but hasn't delivered this year. Can he change that on the Cervelo time trial bike, a Visma Lisa bike? He's got 26.5 kilometres to do it, and he is a really powerful rider. So I wouldn't expect him to be too far off Harold Tejada's best time. Van Aert overtaking plenty of clusters of fans on the 8 kilometre climb to the first time check on the road. Little nations have their corners on this stage. And we've seen the likes of the Belgian straight, the Swiss corner and the Danish corner on this first climb of 2. And Neilson Powless is gradually making his way up the Col d'Ez, our second climb on the route. And he's going to be in the top 5 at the second intermediate check. He's got to be within 1 minute and 9 seconds to do that. And it looks like he is going to be there. Maybe only just, however. Powless will slot into 4th place at 52 seconds down on Lenny Martinez's time. Let's not forget, though, that Harold Tejada was 37 seconds down at that second check. And Martinez seemed to fade as the time trial went on. So keep a beady eye on Powless's third checkpoint time and time at the finish. I will certainly be doing that because he's on my ones to watch list and I want to look cool. If he does well, I will hide it, however, if he does badly. Nelson Oliveira is another competent time trialist. Reaching the latter stages of his career now at Movistar is the Portuguese rider. However, is capable of a good time trial, and he's gone for a different setup to most. So far, we've seen riders go all out on the road bike with the road setup, and all out on the time trial bike with the disc rear wheel and the skis that they use to get more aerodynamic. Nelson Oliveira has got the skis and got the time trial bike, however, has gone with the normal rear wheel, which will give him advantages on the descent. Campenaerts was saying that it was very windy on the route, which meant that those with disc wheels would struggle a little more on the descent. So Oliveira's got the advantage in that regard, but is slightly less aerodynamic. As Geraint Thomas meets the higher-ups of Monaco and has a chat with them before he begins his time trial effort, former British national time trial champion, and a rider we've seen do well in plenty of time trial disciplines at the Tour de France. Stage winner in a time trial as well. I want to say it was 2018. But Van Aert is approaching time check 1. He's almost 20 minutes into his effort. And in around a minute or two's time, he will reach the top of his first climb of the day. As Geraint Thomas G's up the fans of Monaco who are on the streets as he begins his effort fairly shortly. Underway goes Geraint Thomas then. And he is off on the course. 33.7 kilometres he has to do. And I think he'll enjoy himself. He's a rider that's had COVID on this Tour de France, and that has stunted his progress. He still hasn't been too good. Seemingly when he got COVID, he was better, as Neilson Powless is sending it on this descent. So he's looking for that vast time gain, similarly to what Harold Tejada did on Lenny Martinez. He's a little further back than Harold Tejada on the climbing section of the course, but is the weightier of those three riders. So should descend quicker and should hit the flats slightly quicker as well. Let's see how Powless can recover this, as he is into the thick of his descent now. Held third at the first time check, dropped to fourth at time check number 2, so didn't climb Col d'Ez too quickly. Jan Geert is in 5th position at the third time check, so he's added himself to that list. one of the good climbers of yesterday, part of the Soudal Quick-Step team that drilled it on the final climb to try and put Jonas Vingegaard into trouble. In the end, it didn't work, but it was worth a try, certainly. And another rider who was to the forefront of the front group, rather than the peloton, was Enric Mas. Here's what the Spaniard had to say at the end of stage 20. I missed the win by a little bit. My legs just weren't quite there, but I've been enjoying this last week. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a very different tour to the ones that we've seen in the past. I've really enjoyed being able to help Fernando Gaviria on the flat days. Everyone in the team has done really well. I'm really enjoying being a domestique, and I'm hoping that the Vuelta a España is going to be as good as well. This has given me a lot of motivation for La Vuelta. From here until the Vuelta, there's no real time to properly disconnect, but I think we're going to give everything to La Vuelta. And La Vuelta, of course, is his home Grand Tour. That was a Spanish interview he did with Alberto Contador. And he'll be wanting to put in an improved GC performance to his position at the Tour de France. But as he was saying, was in a very different role at this Tour de France. Here is Visma Lease Bikes' Jan Tratnik coming to the finish line, rounding the final left-hander. He's got one right-hander to go before he reaches the lazy left that takes him to the finish. He's going to be over a minute down on Tejada and just outside the top 5, slotting in to 6th position at 1 minute and 17 down on Tejada's time of 48 minutes and 14 seconds. Tejada, of course, now in the hot seat, has transferred himself from the finish line to the hot seat. So we'll be watching everybody else's progress with eager eyes as he focuses on holding that for as long as he possibly can. At the moment, his biggest challenges on the road, I think, are Nielsen Paulus, Wout van Aert, and Jonas Abrahamsen, although Abrahamsen's a little bit of an unknown on this sort of terrain. Van Aert, however, has been through the first time check. At least I'd assume he has, based on the amount of time he's been in the saddle. Although he's coming up to a barriered section now, so actually, I think he's not on one of his better days in the saddle. A rider who tried on stage 18 to get that elusive stage win at this year's tour. In the end, hasn't ended up getting it, and will cross the time check with a time of beyond 25 minutes, 25:06, which is well off the first time of Lenny Martinez, 3 minutes and 35 down. So Van Aert is not troubling Martinez whatsoever in this time trial. So he's having a leisurely day, just hoping to finish the Tour de France in one piece and letting some of the other Visma Lease bike riders, like Jan Tratnik, like Bart Lemon, give the time trial a good crack. Another rider that's given the time trial a good go is Mathieu Bourgadeau. He's attacking these final corners out of the saddle and trying to press on. Might just finish under the 50-minute mark. It's going to be very tight on the line. Moves himself into 8th position at 49.59, and he survives by 16 hundredths of a second to finish underneath the 50-minute mark. So moves himself into 8th place, just ahead of his countryman and teammate Thomas Gachinard. As Enric Mas warms up in the start area, we've heard what he was saying to Alberto Contador on Eurosport yesterday. And the blue moustache of Magnus Cort Nielsen is on the descent now. All eyes will be on Jonas Abrahamsson and what he can do on this sort of stage. Fairly untested on a day like this, with competition like this. However, is outside the top 40 at over 2 minutes down. So won't be troubling any of the times of Harold Tejada. As will Wout van Aert. And the Belgian support changed the sign from Ali Victor to Ali Wout. So it looks like they've got a sign for every big Danish rider? Every big Belgian rider that's on the road. Van Aert now on the descent to Col d'Ez. Just looking to finish the day. I think you can tell by the gear he's churning and the cadence he's going at that he's not going all out. As we flick back to the start and have a rider who had a very good stage yesterday. The Dane that used to hold high regard amongst the populace for best bike rider of their country has been unseated by an incredible talent in Jonas Vingegaard since, but Jakob Fuglsang is on the road for Israel Premier Tech. And his effort is underway. Speaking of Israel Premier Tech, we'll go back to Ugo Ull, who, again, had a lot of interesting things to say at the end of yesterday's stage. Did a big interview with Flow Bikes. And here's what Ugo Ull had to say on Tadej Pogacar. Tadej Pogacar should leave a little bit for the others, I think. At the end of the day, it is what it is, though. The sport I've seen over the last few years has become more and more competitive. I think the UCI point system has completely changed how we used to race. Normally, you come in 30th place in a classic and don't care. Everybody chill together and you finish the race as a group. Now you can see some guys pass full gas just to finish 25th for UCI points. So you cannot blame UAE or Pogacar for this. If they want to be the best team and rider in the world, there's 210 points every day. So there's a lot of points at the Tour. If they take 5 stages, it's a big difference at the end of the year, so it's easy. At the end, Poggy is the strongest, there's no doubt to that, and chapeau to him. But that's the first rider I've seen have those thoughts on the Tour de France at the moment. I've seen the likes of Armstrong have his view on the Move podcast that he does. And George Hincapie the same. However, this is the first rider I've seen that's currently racing that is having the kind of old head unk view of why isn't Pogacar gifting us more stages from the breakaway? And what I say to that is the breakaway needs to get better in terms of cooperation, in terms of talent, in terms of tactics, in terms of talking with each other before the stage and forming alliances to try and get up the road. However, that's just my opinion, and I'd like to know what you think of Ugo Ull's opinion and whether you agree with me or Ugo. But it was just nice at least to see somebody of a differing opinion, even though I don't agree with it. It's nice to see what the other side and what riders think. But that was the view of Ugo Ull. Of course, Jakob Fuglsang now on the route. And he's got Derek G to go soon. Matteo Sobrero slots himself into 4th place. He's at 1 minute and 5 down on Harold Tejada going over the finish line. So he's completed his effort. A rider who was, at least a year or two ago, one of the underlying outsider favourites for stage wins at Grand Tour time trials. But the Italian seems to have slotted better into a domestique role. Rolf Aldag was saying a couple of days ago that he's been struggling recently, on stage 18 especially. So that might go into his time, but he is just over 40 seconds down on Victor Campenaerts, which is not a bad time at all from the rider from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, who is now in 4th. Another rider who had a big day yesterday was Jasper Stuyven, and he's followed it up with a decent time today. 1 minute and 45 seconds down on Harold Tejada in 9th place as things stand. But the top 10 times are gradually being chipped away at by the rest of the field that are on the road at the moment. The next rider you'll see go ahead and get into that top 10 you'd suspect would be Neilson Paulus of EF Education Easy Post, but how far up that top 10 will he get? Stuyven, of course, was involved in the breakaway yesterday, as was Richard Carapaz, who sealed the King of the Mountains classification, so has nothing else to ride for. But somebody who was performing fairly well, and was a teammate actually, of Udo Ull and Jakob Fuglsang, was Stevie Williams. He was one of my ones to watch yesterday. I did a good job on the first climb of the day as Geraint Thomas gets onto the descent. Or is this Castroviejo? This might be Castroviejo, because he was just ahead of Wout van Aert, and it is. But speaking of riders at the first time check, Quentin Paché has gone over in 5th position, 36 seconds down on Lenny Martinez, and 13 seconds behind Harold Tejada. Neilson Paulus was only 4 seconds down on Tejada at checkpoint 1. However, at checkpoint 2, that grew to 15 seconds. So we'll see how Paché does. A rider who enjoys short, sharp climbs, formerly of the B&B Hotels Vital Concept outfit. However, they, of course, went under. And he's moved on to Groupama FDJ and has slotted in nicely as a domestique. Quentin Paché. Somebody who's risen in the ranks, though, from domestique to team leader was Stevie Williams. He's dropped down from Bahrain Victorious to Israel Premier Tech and had a very good stage yesterday in the peloton. Here's what he had to say at the end of yesterday's stage, but I'm going to ignore that as Neilson Paulus comes to the line. It's going to be semi-competitive in the top 5, 4th position to be exact, and within a minute of Harold Tejada. But not the chart-topping time that I expected from Paulus. I've got high hopes for my boy. Unfortunately, didn't deliver on those, but there we are. So here's what Williams had to say at the end of stage 20. I've got to ride 29 kilometres downhill to the bus. What's that all about? It's going to be a long drag down, but it was a good day. I think we stepped up well to look after Derek G. We tried to protect, defend, or possibly move up in the top 10. It was a tough day. It went hell for leather at the start, especially on that first climb. There was no organisation. Luckily today, I had pretty good legs. I was in the main group for most of the day. I think by the time I pulled off, I looked back and I was a bit surprised to see that there was maybe 10 or 15 guys left. It's really nice for me personally to see that I'm finishing the race with good legs and on a good level. From the team's point of view, we haven't won a stage here, and that was a massive goal for us, so that's a shame. But I think we can hold our heads high with getting a rider in the top 10. That was good for the confidence. I think it's a really special race, and I don't think there's many things that come close to this. When you're a youngster riding around Aberystwyth, in my case, the last thing I really thought of was riding the Tour de France. Although you think about it, you never really think it will come true until it actually happens. So to be here now on top of a mountain in stage 20 of the Tour is incredibly special. To all the youngsters out there riding in Wales and all over the world, racing a bike and having fun as kids, aim big, set your dreams high, work hard and enjoy it all the way through. To be here as a young adult now is the icing on the cake. I'm really grateful to be here and have the opportunity. It's been a really special 3 weeks so far. And he'll be hoping to end it on a high in this time trial. Not his discipline by any means. However, could trouble it considering he is very good on the climbs and has proved that in yesterday's stage. And he was right about it being incredibly fast from the gun. Neilson Powless was one of those controlling it for Richard Carapaz, which is probably why he's come home in 4th position. Probably feeling the effects of yesterday's efforts. As Quentin Pache has a rider to chase on the climb of Col d'Ez. He's halfway into his effort as of now. Past the halfway mark. And has got a carrot up the road to go for. And that carrot's from Decathlon Age Desert. And speaking of that team, Bruno Armirail, who was in the breakaway yesterday in the French national time trial colours, has set off and he is on the course. So Armirail's underway, the French national time trial champion. He has started proceedings in his time trial and we are getting better and better riders the longer time goes on, and it will suddenly kick into gear when our top 15 head off. Quentin Pache continues his effort though for Groupama FDJ, and he's got 17.4 kilometers to the top of the climb, to the end of his efforts and the end of his Tour de France. However, the Col d'Ez is where the steepest percentages are. LAG reads the sign from a French fan on the road. And Geraint Thomas is midway up the first climb of the day. A good time trialist back in the day. Still not bad when he needs to contest a GC. However, how will he fare now that he's 42nd overall and working as a teammate for Carlos Rodriguez? Will he go for a potential stage win? Or is that too much to ask from a man who's been struggling with illness in the latter part of this Tour de France? Off goes Pavel Sivakov for UAE Team Emirates, the French rider. Racing under the French flag in Monaco. I'm not going to get into geopolitics and all of that around whether Monaco's France or whether it's its own sovereign area. We don't get too political here on the Taylorson Twitch channel. But Geraint Thomas is pressing on. He is in the skis for Ineos Grenadiers. And they've not been towards the front on any of these time checks so far. Jonathan Castroviejo has failed to trouble the riders in the lead. Over the third intermediate time check, as a pure example, Castroviejo was quite far down. Quentin Pache is about to go over the top of Col d'Ez though. Castroviejo's time of 3:51 down at the second intermediate on Lenny Martinez is going to be smashed by Pache. And he's just over a minute down on his teammate. He slots into 5th position at intermediate time check 2. And it is downhill and flat to the end of his Tour de France. So Pache not going too badly at all. 5th at time check 1, 5th at time check 2. Can he keep this up all the way to the line? At the moment, he sits behind Paulus on both of the first 2 checkpoints. Paulus held the gap to Lenny Martinez between checkpoint 2 and checkpoint 3. So we'll see if Pache can do that and perhaps unseat Paulus in 4th position at that 3rd intermediate time check. Groupama losing their key time trial man Stefan Kuhn a couple of days ago. Just before stage 19. I don't think he will have troubled the top of the stage by the end of the night. However, might have been in the hot seat for a brief amount of time. Perhaps he's passed on his pacing instructions to the likes of Martinez and Pache. But the man with the ginger beard presses on. And the descent will kick into gear very shortly and give him a little bit of respite at the very least. But it's important to stay as aero as you possibly can. The Decathlon Air Desert team car flies past Quentin Pache. And here's a fellow distinctive Frenchman. Romain Bardet will set off for his final stage on his final Tour de France. Will retire midway through next season. Has worn the yellow jersey as well at this tour. He's done everything he possibly wanted going into this time trial. No pressure on his back. And I'm sure he'll want to enjoy this course from Monaco to Nice. 33.7 kilometres. And his Tour de France career will be bookended as a rider. 4 stage wins at the Tour de France. And has been a very good GC rider in the past as well. Finished on the podium of GC in previous editions. That was during the Chris Froome era, where Team Sky had a dominant chokehold on the Tour de France. He's been through one era and he's been spat out into another. The Pogacar Vingegaard era is well underway. We're in our 5th year of it. And we will see those two go as our final 2 riders. At the end of this very good Tour de France, I've got to say, I'd give it a high 7 out of 10 so far. The GC action may not have been great and too thrilling until the last moments, but we were provided with individual stages that were, on occasion, brilliant. Puy-Marie, as an example. The stage that Jonas Vingegaard won. Victor Campenaerts' stage win. Bardet taking yellow in romantic fashion. As Jonas Abrahamsson, on the road bike, is coming towards the finish line. Uno X seemingly going for the road bike setup on a couple of riders. We've seen Johannes Kulset on the road setup and Abrahamson waving to the crowd on his Dare road bike. Abrahamson gives everybody at the finish line a wave, crosses the line in 50th position at 4 minutes and 15 seconds behind Harold Tejada. A good tour from Abrahamson. Peaked in the first week. Slightly tailed off in the second and the third, but that's what you expect from a Grand Tour debutant who has buried themselves in week one. Early taker of the King of the Mountains jersey. Held it for as long as he feasibly could, I believe. And did a very good job. Quentin Pache, though, has a descent to try and take as many risks on as possible. As many calculated risks for the Frenchman. Formerly teammates with Pierre Roland. Another famous French darling is on the route in Romain Bardet. And the French national champion of Bruno Amirai. He's got around 10 minutes until he reaches the first intermediate time check, where we can see his progress. Might be feeling it in the legs from yesterday's breakaway attempt. And at the moment, he is just behind Harold Tejada's time on the road for now, which is some way behind Lenny Martinez's time to checkpoint 1. However, that's no longer the time you need to worry about. Plenty of riders gained on Martinez between checkpoint 2 and checkpoint 3, and then between checkpoint 3 and the line especially. So Amirai just needs to focus on the time of Harold Tejada for now. Our race leader virtually on the road, as UAE Team Emirates alongside Ineos Grenadiers. Geraint Thomas passes his 92nd man. And a fellow Ineos Grenadier is about to set off. 2019 Tour de France winner Egan Bernal is on the road bike and begins his effort. So Bernal is underway for Ineos, the Colombian. Fellow Colombian currently in control and in the hot seat as things stand. How long will he be able to hold that for, though? We've got much better riders beginning to set off now, who probably have their eyes on this stage win. Bruno Amirai should be one of them, the French national champion on Decathlon Age Desert in the tricolour jersey. A national championship that he won just before this Tour de France began. So it's a good indicator of time trialling form. Decathlon, of course, having the road race jersey as well with Paul Lapeyra. But Amirai holds the time trial jersey and is halfway into his effort up the first climb of today. Points are being given out on that climb as well. 5 points for the first rider over the top. However, that has been sealed, the competition of the King of the Mountains, by Richard Carapaz, who has nothing else really to race for. But somebody who does have something to race for is Mikel Landa. He's currently sat in 5th overall, just behind Joao Almeida, who is the better time trialist and should hold on to the 4th position on the road. However, here's what the Spanish rider had to say at the end of stage 20. He said that Remco Evenepoel was motivated to try to gain some time against Jonas Vingegaard, looking also to the TT of tomorrow. We tried. The team was doing well, so we're happy. Even if he didn't gain anything, I think it's a very good sign. Looking to the future, he gained a lot of confidence. He increased personally, so I think looking to the future, he's very good. Every tour, you learn something. This time, I learned a lot about him and the rest of the team. For example, I think about flatter stages with wind now in a different way, so I think it's been a good experience for me. Landa, always learning on the road, and a real fan favourite on Soudal Quickstep now. And another fan favourite is Wout van Aert. He is looking to finish his time trial in one piece. At the moment, he's done that. He's got a couple more corners left to go. But here's a rider who could challenge. Ben Healy of EF Education Easy Post is underway, immediately slots into the aero time trial position, and is a rider who has so much power and so much energy and so much fuel to use, but occasionally uses it in the wrong way, I just think. And pays for it. A rider whose talent probably deserves more stage wins than he's got. However, tactically, both he and the team let himself down a little bit, in my opinion. He is a very good domestique, however, to the likes of Richard Carapaz, and will always give 100%. Quentin Paché has failed to gain any time on the descent and will go under intermediate checkpoint 3 very shortly. He was a minute 4 down at the second time check. Hasn't gained too much on Harold Tejada, who of course gained a lot of time on the descent as well. Wout van Aert's coming to the finish line. The time will not be competitive at all, but I don't think he'll mind. He's being followed in by one of the Movistar riders, and he ends his effort 72nd overall, 5 minutes 23 seconds down, nearly 5:24. And that is his tour over. He'll be waiting for the rest of his teammates to come in, probably going and seeing the family as well. And his kid, plural. As Eurosport cut to an interview with Jonas Abrahamsson, Quentin Paché does have a rider ahead of him to chase on Decathlon Azure Desert, and a fellow Groupama FDJ rider is Romain Gregoire, who is going to the top of the second time check, up Col d'Ez. 1 minute and 4 seconds down on Lenny Martinez, just behind Quentin Paché on the road. Around a tenth or two behind Paché at that second time check. Both French riders on Groupama FDJ who haven't had a tour to remember by any means this year. But Paché is off and going and is chasing a fellow French team's rider that is just ahead of him. 3.3 kilometers of his effort remain, and he does have that carrot to chase. More and more riders now are settling in as they are ready to watch the best of the GC riders give it a go on this time trial. Julien Bernard isn't one of them, but has given a little peace sign to the camera, similar to Victor Campenaerts. And in the start area, Remco Evenepoel is out of the team bus, has the ice vest on, and is beginning his warm-up on the bike. Nicolas Prudhomme has suddenly turned up at the third intermediate time check, 43 seconds down on Lenny Martinez, and has jumped Quentin Paché, so he is the French rider to watch on the road at the moment. Prudhomme, who hasn't been in and around the top 5 on the first 2 intermediate checkpoints, has suddenly appeared at the third time check. I'm not sure whether that's real though, because he was 2 minutes and 42 seconds down on Martinez at checkpoint 2, and is 43 seconds down on Martinez at checkpoint 3. I'm not sure whether that's correct. I think that's the time, as Romain Gregoire takes all of the road he possibly can, had to unclip because he thought he was going to crash. The left foot came out of the pedal, went too quickly into a left-hander, panicked, and there is a drop-off. Not down a mountain, but just a little bit of curbing that could have thrown him off, and he was going very quickly. So Gregoire survives, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes the rest of this descent fairly cautiously. The young man on Groupama FDJ, Lenny Martinez, of a similar mould, promising French talent on Groupama FDJ, sat second at the moment. At the end of this stage, however, another Frenchman on the lottery-funded team, Quentin Paché, has now 2 riders to chase. I think Prodom's the rider ahead of him based on that time check glitch. But he's got just over 1 kilometre to try and catch them both. I think he'll catch Prodom. However, I don't think he'll catch the second rider, the 3-minute man that's ahead on Visma Lisa bike. Looks like Tadej Pogacar being followed by Prodom. And then comes Quentin Paché, who hasn't got long to go in his time trial. Been regularly in the top 5 of previous intermediate time checks. Can he convert it into a top 5 on the stage? Benoit looks underneath his arm and sees Prodom and Quentin Paché coming. Moves out of the way for both French riders. At least first for Prodom. Quentin Paché then round this left-hander. The clock is ticking beyond 20 seconds now. And Paché's got Prodom to catch. It will be over 30 seconds as he crosses the line. Neilson Paulus sits in 5th position on 55 seconds. And Quentin Paché will go ahead of the American. How far ahead will he sit, however? Moves himself actually into 4th, which is ahead of Paulus, behind Campenarts. And he sits there by 11 seconds ahead of Neilson Paulus. But at the moment, nobody is yet to unseat Harold Tejada, who has been at the front now for an hour in the lead of this race. And has probably been in the hot seat for around 45 minutes at this point. But good result from Tejada as things stand. Who is sitting pretty at the top of this time trial leaderboard. Somebody who we haven't seen anything of is Ugo Ull on today's stage. Here was the final part of his little spiel with Flow Bikes. He said that the G versus Jorgensen GC battle will be really interesting. At the end of a Grand Tour, anything is possible and everything is possible. Tomorrow is a really hard technical time trial, so I hope Derek G goes fast because I can eat a hamburger. We have to stay on a diet like him, so we will make sure that he will be ready for the time trial. That's Ugo Ull's thoughts. So a hamburger is on the line for Derek G. If he can unseat Jorgensen, and I think even if he finishes the Tour de France in the top 10, there will be hamburgers all around the Israel Premier Tech bus. And there will be pizzas as well around many of the buses, with Tour de Titema giving out the Italian treat. Probably raiding a poor little Domino's in Nice. However, they did make them aware of the big order I heard. So yeah, you got to feel sorry for the Domino's workers there, but at least they'll be making a lot of money. So a win is a win. And at the moment, the rider that's winning is Harold Tejada. Let's dive in deep then into the profile that we've got, because that will be what the GC contenders have studied for a lot of the day. Starting in Monaco at about sea level, finishing in Nice at about sea level. And we've got the climb of La Turbie to begin with, 8.1 kilometres, 5.6% on average. That's given a Category 2 label, so 5 points will be handed out to the best time over the top. 3 points to the second best, 2 points to the third best, and 1 point to the fourth best. Then we go through Ez, and we reach the Col d'Ez, which is a steeper climb, however a shorter climb. And once you're over that, it's a brief section of flat before you go down an extended around 9 kilometre downhill into the third time check on the Place Ile de Beauté. And then, once you've done that, just over 5 kilometres until you reach the finish line just in from the beach at Nice. So that is what is ahead of the riders, going through the likes of Beausoleil and La Turbie village before you reach the top of the La Turbie climb, and then flying past Villefranche-sur-Mer on the descent. So that is what lies ahead of the rest of the riders, and there's not too many of them left to go down the ramp now. We're getting through them, churning through them quickly. Sign now that says Allez Romain. This Belgian woman has every sign possible of every rider name. It was Allez Victor, it was Allez Wout, and now it's Allez Romain, who is shifting up this climb. He's on the first effort of the day. The Col d'Ez will come shortly afterwards. However, Bardet will be looking to finish this Tour de France on a high. Imagine the scenes if he gets into the hot seat. And the French support if that would have happened. From a French GC talent to a Spanish GC talent, Enric Mas is now on the road in Monaco. He started his time trial efforts. A rider who had a ding-dong battle with Richard Carapaz yesterday. In the end, neither of them ended up converting it into a victory. But Mas is underway and on the roads to Nice. That is our situation for now, as we get a helicopter view of the course. And it is a very hilly course, especially for the 33.7 kilometre test that it is. Geraint Thomas now we are on board with, to use an F1 term, being in Monaco, as Eurosport cut to an interview with Wout van Aert over the third time check at 45 minutes and 8 seconds, so he is not troubling the time of Lenny Martinez and Harold Tejada whatsoever. Thomas just looking to finish this one in a respectable time. Had a good Giro d'Italia, albeit semi-clumsy, but did give GC a good crack. In the end came up short, but has been a semi-decent teammate in what has been a poor Ineos team at this Tour de France. We will go through that and plenty of other things in the tier list at the end of the stage. Romain Gregoire continuing his efforts for Groupama FDJ, just ahead of Geraint Thomas. It's the old and the new of riders at the moment. And we go back to a retro name, however, somebody that has made their mark on this year's Tour de France. Romain Bardet for DSM Firmenich Post NL is on course and is gradually cooking. He's got his wife and his child in the back of the DSM team car, sat just behind him on the road at the moment. And that will certainly give him some encouragement as he comes to the first time check and crosses in a time of 22 minutes and 47 seconds, which is outside the top 15. So Bardet won't be troubling the front. However, it will just be nice to see him finish off his final Tour de France and come across the line, having worn the yellow jersey and having won a stage. Couldn't have asked for much more, Romain Bardet, at this Tour de France, and has done a very good job. A rider who many will remember, bit of a cult hero. And has done a sterling job at this Tour de France. Either way, another French rider coming to an intermediate time check is Bruno Armirail, this time to the top of intermediate point 2 instead of intermediate point 1 that we saw Bardet at. Armirail just inside the top 10, the French national time trial champion at just under a minute and 20 seconds down. Minute 19 behind Lenny Martinez at checkpoint 2. But that was where it peaked for Lenny, who then gradually shipped time to the rest of the riders. Pogacar warming up in the start area in UAE Team Emirates kits, so not in the yellow jersey for now. Or is that Yates? That might be Yates, but he's shaved, which is very off-putting. I was confused as to why the yellow jersey wasn't being worn, but that makes a lot of sense now. It will soon be time to shift our focus to the general classification. Julien Bernard is on the road. Whenever I seem to talk about the general classification, Julien Bernard appears on my screen. And the little trick rider has been very active at this Tour de France. Been involved in plenty of breakaways. Of course, didn't go too well for Mads Pedersen on Little Trek, who crashed out of the Tour. And that meant a big change in mindset for Little Trek. And time for other riders to show themselves on TV. Julien Bernard definitely was one of those. We saw Jasper Stuyven do it yesterday. We saw Tom Stroynes do it on stage 18. Ryan Gibbons was involved in a couple of the sprints as well. And Armirail continues his time trial effort. Shouldn't be too imposing on the times of Harold Tejada based on his previous time checks. I don't think he will be towards the front. However, I'm sure he'll give it a good go in the tricolour. Not necessarily the time trial that suits him or the time trial that he did at the French National Championships, as Romain Gregoire has passed the finish line and goes into the top 5. Same time as Quentin Paget. Paget ahead on hundredths of a second, however. So a good time from Romain Gregoire. And once again, the two future stars of French cycling. Kevin Vauquelin still holding on to 8th place. He went much earlier in the day. Lenny Martinez, however, went before Kevin Vauquelin and holds on to 2nd place in the provisional standings. Gregoire had a good finish to his time trial. We saw him taking risks on the descent and overtaking Geraint Thomas on his way there. Bruno Armirail, though, is flying at the moment down this descent. In the skis, goes out of the skis as he goes around a right-hander. And the drone shot's okay, but I don't think it adds an incredible amount to the racing. I'm all for it, like when the picture improves and when it's better to see. But at the moment, a very high def camera on a helicopter is still the way for me. But I don't think it'll be too long until drones become the norm for aerial views. Romain Bardet, though, is pressing on. He's on the climb of Col d'Ez now. And I think he'll just be enjoying this time trial at least as much as you can while suffering on a stage like today. A view of the polka dot bike of Richard Carapaz, who does a short wave to the camera. He will begin his effort shortly, and we will hear from him once he starts the time trial about what he thought of his Tour de France this year and what he thinks of being in the King of the Mountains jersey. Julien Bernard, though, is continuing his effort as well. Loads of French riders on the road and just finishing at the moment. Of course, plenty in their home Grand Tour, so that's kind of expected. Spanner Walker is doing a little run through of Richard Carapaz's Cannondale. White base, red spots on the frame, little bit of black on the seat post with red trim. So still trying to weight save at every opportunity. No gold on there by the looks of things for the Olympic champion. As the French support have the signs and the flags out, Merci Romain reads one of them. Bardet goes past that. And we'll be taking in the support of all of these fans. Alemannia Aachen used to manage them on FIFA 09 career mode. Bit of a weird team to have seen on there. Girondins de Bordeaux there as well. And Richard Carapaz in the red shorts of EF. I think if you're going to wear the polka dot jersey, you've got to wear either your team colour shorts, which would be pink, or white and red spots, and just go full polka dots. And EF have decked out one of their cars in polka dots for Richard Carapaz. They've gone for the whole hog, apart from the shorts. Ridiculous from EF. They've made up for it with the car being in polka dots. However, Richard Carapaz's shorts should be polka dotted as well. That's perhaps a hot take. But here's what Carapaz thought of his Tour de France in an interview with Seb Piquet at the end of stage 20. Carapaz said, "I'm very emotional. It's been a very hard day because the first mountain where we thought I could get points, I didn't get anything because of a breakaway. But then I was able to ride the descent fast because I knew it very well, and I've come away with the points, and I am very happy." First Ecuadorian to win a stage of the Tour de France. First Ecuadorian to wear the yellow jersey of the Tour de France. First Ecuadorian to wear and win the King of the Mountains jersey at the Tour de France. Richard Carapaz making so many strides for his country as a bike rider. And of course, that Olympic gold medal was probably the peak of that. Djurgården's flag as well. So a bit of Swedish support on the road. They've not got any riders to support, at least not until Tudor Pro Cycling get themselves an invite, or Q36.5 can return to the World Tour with Tobias Ludvigsson and the Eriksson brothers. Bardet comes to the top of Col d'Ez, 15th position, so he's gained a little bit on the road, 1 minute and 40 seconds down on Lenny Martinez over the top of Col d'Ez. And at the first time check, Bardet was at 1 minute and 17, so he hasn't lost as much to Lenny Martinez, but we know how good of a descender Bardet is. He's not going to make up that amount of time on the other riders, including Harold Tejada. However, he could make up a decent amount and slip into that top 10. Jan Tratnik currently sat in 10th, 1 minute and 17 seconds down on Harold Tejada. Quick maths, that'll be... Oh, never mind. Jakob Fuglsang's gone into 9th place across the line. We didn't see any of that on the TV feed that I'm watching, which has dropped Michael Matthews now down to 10th, and that makes the maths a lot easier. 49 minutes and 24 seconds is the time you need to get into the top 10 as things stand, and Guillaume Martin is on the road for Cofidis. The Frenchman, who enjoys backdooring his way into a GC battle, hasn't had the opportunity to do that at this Tour de France, but has been in and around the breakaways, most notably on the stage won by Richard Carapaz, where he was in the driving seat for a brief moment with Valentin Madouas. Tadej Pogacar warming up with Joao Almeida in the start area, just applied his ice vest, and it was indeed Adam Yates then, because Pogacar decked out in yellow, and Yates has shaved, so he's taking this seriously as Adam Yates. Romain Bardet then has 15 kilometres left of his efforts. Lost 22 seconds to Lenny Martinez between the first and second time check, but should be able to gain on Martinez once we reach checkpoint 3, because Martinez, of course, is not the heaviest rider, and as a result isn't a great descender. Bardet isn't a time trialist by any means in terms of weight, but can descend very well and has a reputation for doing so. At the moment he's on a downhill false flat before the descending really begins and it starts to get technical and quick. But good time from Fuglsang for a guy that can't time trial as well as the rest of the GC guys. Pretty good time to finish in 9th. And paced his effort fairly well, similar to the Lenny Martinez pacing strategy. Lost a little bit of time between checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2, but then regained that and held his own on the final section to the line. Romain Bardet continues though. He's got 14 kilometres now and is into the meaty section of this descent. And this is where things start to get real for Bardet. This is where he's at his best. Little look over the shoulder to see where the camera motorbike is. Not sure whether that was out of worry or whether that was a thought-through decision from Bardet. As Simon Yates is ready to begin his effort, off he goes. His brother is looking to hold his spot in the general classification. Simon Yates has nothing to lose and perhaps a stage win to go for, to unseat Harold Tejada, who has been at the front now for well over an hour in the hot seat. Pogacar, 5 stage wins so far at this Tour de France. Can he make it 6? We've got interviews with him, Remco Evenepoel and Jonas Vingegaard to go through. Those 3 we will do once we're on the road. But let's have a look at our GC and our minor classifications first, before we get to the prime time of this time trial. So in the minor classifications, Remco Evenepoel, who's currently warming up in the white jersey, has ditched the ice vest. He's leading in that classification 13 minutes and 8 seconds ahead of Carlos Rodriguez and 16 minutes and 22 seconds ahead of Matteo Jorgensen in third. I doubt those three are going to change as Romain Bardet is bunny hopping his way down this descent. Loads of different road services on this descent of the Col d'Ez, and that makes it slightly dangerous. Campenaerts was worried about whether it would rain today, and it certainly looked like it at the start. However, the sun is peering through. Does that mean that it was better conditions for the riders that set off initially? Or does it hand the advantage to the likes of the GC guys who will set off later? Bardet makes his way around a tight hairpin turn, then will take a left and has a brief section of straight road before his next turn. But as we were saying, looks like the white jersey top three will stay as it is. Santiago Buitrago won't trouble Matteo Jorgensen for that third spot in the white jersey. Bardet does not look too confident going down this descent. And with all the changing road surfaces, it makes a lot of sense. Biniam Girmay leads in the green jersey on 387. He has won the green jersey at this Tour de France now. Jasper Philipsen will take second, and Brian Cocard for Cofidis will take home third. And there is going to be no movement, I would think, in the King of the Mountains classification. Our polka dot jersey is already on the road. Richard Carapaz might be looking to increase his total from 127 to 132 at the end of today by taking the 5 points and setting the best time between the start and intermediate time check 1. Tadej Pogacar will take home second for UAE Team Emirates, with Jonas Vingegaard in third in that classification entering today for Visma Lease bike. So that is your minor classifications. Your other classifications, Evenepoel will be wearing the white jersey. Biniam Girmay we've seen finish in the green jersey. Evenepoel yet to set off, of course. And Carapaz is on the road in the polka dots. One of his main rivals yesterday was Enric Mas, and he's not got too long to go until he reaches the first intermediate time check at just over 11 kilometres into the stage. But now is where it gets serious. Our top 10 are on the road. Giulio Ciccone sets off on his time trial effort, and that is a good time to bring up the GC now that we've got the little Trek rider on the road. Here is the GC. Giulio Ciccone is sat 10th and must hold it from Santiago Buitrago in 11th position. Not too much of a gap between those, and we'll get onto that in a short while. Derek G and Matteo Jorgensen will be battling it out, as will Carlos Rodriguez and Adam Yates, but your top 5 should stay the same at the end of this time trial effort. Slowos of Gregor Mulberger geeing up the crowd. But Mikel Landa will finish 5th at this tour, barring incident or accident, at 17 minutes and 25 seconds down going into today. João Almeida is in 4th. Remco Evenepoel will be 3rd, Jonas Vingegaard 2nd, and Tadej Pogacar 1st. Hot take, that will be the top 3 at the end of this time trial. Bruno Armirail is coming to the finish line and could slip his way into the top 10. He's got to be within 1 minute and 10. However, those times will disappear fairly quickly. Comes across the line and can only manage 11th place by a tiny amount on Michael Matthews, who regains his top 10. The earliest starter, of course, in that top 10 being Lenny Martinez, who was one of the first away at the start. And Egan Bernal is sending it down this descent on his road bike. One of the few riders who've opted for a road bike at this time trial. Derek G is ready to begin his effort though. The North American has a battle with a fellow North American. It's Canada against the United States for 8th in the general classification. Both of these riders, very competent when it comes to the time trial discipline. And G is underway as we get views of, on the F1 course, they would call the swimming pool chicane. It's weird to see it without curbing set up, as Joao Almeida and Adam Yates continue warming up for UAE Team Emirates. Adam Yates will be going very, very shortly, as we cut back to Romain Bardet. But here are your GC battles that you need to keep an eye on. Adam Yates starts the day in 6th position, and he is ahead of Carlos Rodriguez by just 1 second. So Yates has to hold on in this classification. Carlos Rodriguez, 1 second behind him in 7th. Matteo Jorgensen holds 8th position. Derek G is in 9th. 24 seconds he's got to close on the American for Team Visma Lisa bike. And Giulio Ciccone holds 10th place and the last spot in that top 10. Santiago Buitrago has 22 seconds to close on Giulio Ciccone if he wants to make it into that top 10. And we will see a battle for the ages, I think, for all of those positions. So even though the top 3 look set, the rest of the general classification is certainly yet to be decided. Romain Bardet continues his efforts, however, and will keep on pressing towards the finish line. But those are your situations in terms of GC battles, and we will keep updated on those throughout the day. While it goes on, I'll just zoom in to give you a good view of the actual graphic, because it is cut off annoyingly by my screen. So apologies for the little bits of road working going on. Plenty of road working going on in the Col des descent, which caused a few problems. Hopefully that's okay. I mean, it's cut off general classification battles, but doesn't really matter. There. That's how we'll have it. Anyway, back to the race. EF Education Easy Post are on the road. And meanwhile, Team DSM Firmenich key man Romain Bardet has gone through the third intermediate time check. Still in and around the top 20, slots into 17th position at 1 minute 46 down on Lenny Martinez, as Remco Evenepoel is about to go out and begin his effort. There is a rip in his jersey on the right shoulder. He's not crashed or anything, I don't think. I think he's just shoved a little bit too much down his back. At least I thought it was a rip. Jai Hindley's on the road, by the way, for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. I think he has. There is a lot down the rear of his jersey. However, no, it's just a overcoat, as Hindley is 26 seconds down on Harold Tejada over the first time check. And he will begin his descent to Col d'Ez. Evenepoel, however, making his way past all of the little booths, will have his bike surveyed by the UCI commissaires for any issues. The bike will be checked and verified, and he gets into the prep area with Mikel Landa. Just a section of seats placed next to each other. before the time trial begins. And Jonas Vingegaard is still in the warm-up area. And now here comes Tadej Pogacar. 4 UAE Team Emirates. Our yellow jersey on the route. And there is a little child on that team that's piloted him to the seating area. That bike will be verified as well. But he's got a turbo trainer that he can warm up on. I assume that's being given out to the best team on the road, which is UAE Team Emirates, as we've got a problem for Visma Lisa bike. Was it a mechanical for Matteo Jorgensen? No, it was a crash. Which is huge for Jorgensen in this battle with Derek G. That's going to be key time lost. Round the, is it the Lowe's hairpin on the Monaco Grand Prix track? But immediately a scare for Matteo Jorgensen. And that plays into the hands of Derek G. Let's not forget, 22 seconds the gap between G and Jorgensen. And that will have reduced that by quite a bit. The crash from Matteo Jorgensen. Adam Yates now is on the road and begins his efforts. And we will soon get to the top 3 in the general classification. He's got to hold his own against Carlos Rodriguez, who is 90 seconds up the road from him, as Romain Bardet has 1 kilometre left of his final Tour de France. He will drink it in, all of the support from the fans. It's been a great career for Bardet, and a really enjoyable one to watch, especially the latter part of his career when I really started to get into cycling. Has had horrible memories of final time trials in the past, almost being caught by Froome going into Marseille's football stadium, if you remember that. However, did perform incredibly well on GC that year. But Bardet will come to the line, gives the camera motorbike a wave, gives the team car with his wife and his child in a wave, and he will enjoy every moment of these final 300 metres of his Tour de France. It's not career over. But we are seeing the denouement of a real legend of this era of the sport. Romain Bardet, 1 minute and 57 seconds. The time will tick beyond 2 minutes. Bardet will not care one jot. He crosses the line, gives everybody a wave, and it is a farewell to the Tour de France from Romain Bardet, who slots into 19th position overall. And I think he's a little bit sad about it. It's one of those things where he's trying to suppress his emotions, I think. It's making me a little bit sad. But his kid is very happy with the performance. It's a thumb up. And it was thumbs up from Bardet as well across the route. And he'll be in celebratory mood tonight, I'm sure, Romain Bardet. Hasn't challenged for the stage win, but you don't expect him to. Hopefully he enjoyed that time trial. He looked like he didn't enjoy the descent based on all of the little bumps and bruises that were in the road and the changing surface of the road. But we finish in Nice, and it'll be the second time that I shoehorn Joe Dombrowski into a broadcast of mine. Dombrowski being from Nice. He was previously King of the Mountains holder on one of the climbs on the stages in the past. And of course, I brought him up as friend and training partner of Matteo Jorgensen. Enric Master has crossed the second intermediate time check at 1 minute and 22 seconds behind. He said he enjoyed a lot this Tour de France, and it's given him a new perspective, not riding for GC and riding as a domestique, even on the flat stages for Fernando Gaviria. And he said that his mindset now switches to La Vuelta. But Joao Almeida's on the road. Our second of the UAE Team Emirates trio in the top 10. And he holds 4th place, which means our GC podiums are the only riders yet to set off. A couple of words and a high five exchanged between Pogacar and Remco Evenepoel. And Evenepoel will soon to be beginning this time trial. Mikel Landa is underway though, his teammate for Soudal Quickstep, and is already on course. He will be Remco Evenepoel's 3-minute man. Perhaps could catch his own teammate on the route, which would be fun to watch. I don't think Joao Almeida will be able to do the same with Adam Yates. However, stranger things have happened, and we're about to see Remco Evenepoel set off. And we will get his view on the time trial, because he spoke at length about it once he sets off down the ramp and begins his effort. There won't be any changes to the top 3, you would think, at least now. However, again, it's not over yet. Evenepoel on the starting podium, and he sets off. The stage win favourite, you'd suspect. It will be a battle between him, Vingegaard and Pogacar, but Evenepoel immediately into time trial position, and the Belgian bullet is off on course. Here's what he had to say about the time trial stage that is ahead of him. It's a very beautiful climb to start off with, starting in Monaco, then the Col d'Ez and the final kilometre of the last stage of Paris-Nice. So it's not my home roads, but I've reconned them pretty well. I'm feeling ready. I know the time trial very well, but I think Tadej knows it as well. It's his home roads, and in the end it's half of a mountain stage, so I think the top 3 on GC will be up there for the stage win again, and maybe some other guys too. We will see how it goes. It's the last day of the tour, so special results can come out of the box. We will have to see what happens, but of course I'm going to go all in and try to grab a second stage win. It's not going to be easy, of course. I think Tadej and Jonas showed yesterday that they're on a high level, so we'll just have to fight until the finish line. We have to arrive safe and all out, then we will hopefully enjoy the podium. I've raced on the roads in Paris-Nice, and I've done quite some recons of the stage, but if you live there, you'll be extra motivated. For me, it's nothing personal to somebody. I don't want to beat Tadej on his terrain, or for example, if it would have been in Denmark, I wouldn't really have in my mind to beat Jonas. It's more about giving it one more all-out effort, and hopefully it's a stage win, but we'll see about that tomorrow night. Team radio from a Soudal Quickstep team car says, "In your zone, mate. Let Tadej wave to everyone. We are here for something else." So big talk from the Soudal Quickstep team car. And as that radio message was coming in, Ilan van Wilder, Remco's teammate, and a semi-decent Belgian time trialist, also good at the climbs, has slotted himself into 7th. So it looks like they've got themselves a good pacing strategy. Off goes Jonas Vingegaard, and it is at 2-minute intervals now. So Vingegaard has set off. Here's what he had to say ahead of the time trial. He was much less introspective than Remco Evenepoel, but he had this to say about Remco. He's the best time trialist in the world, Remco Evenepoel, so you never know. Of course, 3 minutes sounds like a lot, but last year I took 1:40, so you can easily lose a lot of time on a course like this. I'm happy that I got almost a minute more yesterday, and of course now there's one more day. I'll do absolutely everything I can to keep this second place. So fighting talk from Vingegaard, fighting torque from Evenepoel, and fighting torque from the Soudal Quick-Step team car, which leaves one rider to set off and begin this stage. Will he be waving to everybody like the Soudal Quick-Step team car said? There could be egg on the face for the sports director. Pogacar taking a couple of deep breaths before he begins his effort, and the fingers will go up soon. Vingegaard, though, is well underway and is already settling into his pace on the time trial bike. Tadej Pogacar will begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and our yellow jersey is on the road. Underway he goes, immediately into the skis, and settles into a tempo. Our number 11, second place in the previous 2 years, should turn that into first place, barring extreme circumstances on the roads. He'll be taking it easy, but the stage win will be in his mind as well. So how will the Slovenian on UAE Team Emirates play this? Pogacar's on the road, and he's got 33 kilometres to pace himself and potentially go for a 6th stage win at the 2024 Tour de France. In the yellow jersey and flying on the F1 track, we've seen him out with Carlos Sainz before. Of course, Sainz goes a lot quicker around these parts in his Ferrari car, but Pogacar's got himself and a Colnago under the bridge he goes. Not the bridge, but you know what I mean, the tunnel. And out the other side, and it is equally as bright as it is in Formula 1 when the car emerges. No incidents like Sergio Perez in the Sauber of around 10 or 12 years ago. But we have seen somebody come off. Matteo Jorgensen crashed early on in his time trial effort, and that has thrown it into the hands of Derek G in the battle for 8th. Evenepoel, though, is on the road and is underway for his effort. Tadej Pogacar, as well, is off, and here's what he had to say about stage 21. If you told me I'd get 5 stage wins before the Tour, I would not believe it, and it's just out of this world. I'm so happy, and I hope I can share this victory with the teammates tomorrow. Just the yellow jersey would be enough, but it is how it is. You don't break in cycling. Let's see if I have really good legs, but I think tomorrow I just want to come safely to Nice. It's quite a dangerous time trial. I can maybe enjoy a bit more of the crowds tomorrow. I've reconned the time trial too many times. If you ask Urshka Ziegart, she always wants to kill me when I say, yeah, let's go down this road, because we'll do it in the Tour. So she hates these parkours now. She hates the roads, but for me, I'm going to enjoy them. And we've seen Pogacar play this move in press conferences before. Or not press conferences, interviews post-stage before. Will he be bluffing once again on stage 21? Remco Evenepoel, though, is making his way off the F1 track and further upwards, gaining in climbing meters. He's on the climb to La Turbie, 8.1 kilometers in total, 5.6% on average. So it's better suited to those time trial bikes than we've seen the likes of Jonas Krulset and plenty of the other Uno X riders be on road bikes. Jonas Abrahamsen also was one of those. And Mathieu van der Poel was on the road bike as well. But none of the GC contenders have opted for that. Nobody will go for a bike change as well, you'd think. It's too dangerous and risky on a day like today. Not even Richard Carapaz has gone for the road bike. which I think shows you that he's not going for the points at the top of La Turbie. Jonas Vingegaard is on the road though, and is into his effort. Evenepoel will be the first of these three to finish, you would expect, as long as all of them stay with two wheels to the road at all times. But what can the yellow jersey do? Pogacar remaining in the skis while going around a series of bends. They're not too hefty, sort of 45-degree corners, so he can afford to stay in the skis and in a much more aerodynamic position. Stays in the skis going around a 90-degree left at around 25 kilometers an hour, and the roads are narrow because of the barriers and spectators. Richard Carapaz, though, has just enjoyed his day. He is on the road bike now, so might have had a bike change. Is making his way up Col d'Ez and will cross the line at the second intermediate checkpoint, well over 3 minutes down on Lenny Martinez. He won't mind. He's probably just out for a Sunday ride. 3 minutes and 18 seconds down on Lenny Martinez, sat in 71st. Guillaume Martin's doing a lot better. He's almost caught Carapaz and is going to cross the line inside the top 20, 17th at time check number 2, 1 minute and 35 seconds down on Martinez. Evenepoel gets back into the skis, needs to focus on handlebar and arm position to try and get as aero as he possibly can. However, through the first time check, Simon Yates has gone just about quicker than Harold Tejada, our leader, currently the man in the hot seat. Yates has done the same time as Tejada, but is ahead on tenths and hundredths of a second, as we're about to get another team radio from Soudal Quickstep. Really good. Take your position as soon as you can, and now you can push the watts we want to do. Perfect. Go on, champion. And of course, no champions bands for Remco. Has the rainbow bands on the helmet and a little bit on the Soudal Quickstep colours for World Time Trial Champion. And at the moment, he is blowing the time of Harold Tejada out of the water. 47 seconds up after just 11 minutes and 15 seconds in the saddle. Of course, Tejada nowhere near as good of a time trialist, a pure time trialist. With Pogacar pointing up and then pointing to his head. I'm not sure whether his helmet's not on properly, which has been a consistent issue for Slovenians in the yellow jersey on a late time trial. We'll see whether Pogacar keeps that trend going. We've seen Roglic have it before, and Remco Evenepoel is sweating. Beads of sweat going down from his head onto his arms. Of course, the sun being out has increased the temperature now in Nice, as Remco goes past all of the Belgian fans on what I'm going to call Belgium Straight on the La Turbie climb. A couple of cardboard cutouts of Remco. The Belgian fans come prepared. I mean, you had that woman with the Allez Wout, Allez Roman, Allez Victor sign. I'm sure she'll have an Allez Remco. And maybe an Allez Tadej. And maybe even an Allez Jonas. But we'll see how it goes. And then we have those Belgians who have 24 million cardboard cutouts of their Belgian heroes. This is Simon Yates going to intermediate time check 2. At the first time check, he was down by 31 seconds. At the second, he's down by 27 seconds on Lenny Martinez. But at the first time check, Derek G is our new leader. He's crossed that line at 21 minutes and 12 seconds down. I will update this timing to show you that. G at 21 minutes and 12 seconds. Jorgensen slotted into third, 14 seconds behind Derek G, which is not bad at all for a man who has come off of his bike, remounted and got back going on a climb. Simon Yates is on the road. Santiago Buitrago as well is at 43 seconds down, which compared with Giulio Ciccone is putting him in with an advantage over the Italian, who is at 1 minute and 36 seconds. So Buitrago is gaining almost a minute at checkpoint 1 on Giulio Ciccone, and he only needs 24 seconds by the time they get to the line. Ciccone is hoping he's got his pacing strategy right, but he's got out fairly slowly to checkpoint 1. The next times that will come in will be big ones. Joao Almeida will come through and I'm sure challenge Derek G, as well as our top 3. All of the top 4 will be challenging. Felix Gal goes over intermediate time check 2 on the road bike, and this is the first time we can see a bike change in action. Goes over the top of Coldez on the road bike, switches to the time trial bike, and will get a push off now. He's at 3 minutes and 30 seconds down and will begin his descent, and the next rider to cross will be Santiago Buitrago. He goes 43 seconds down on Lenny Martinez. So let's see what Giulio Ciccone can do at intermediate time check 2. At time check 1, he was well outside the top 30, 32nd overall at time check 1. What does he have in the locker for time check 2? We will see that, but we will also see what the rest of the GC hopefuls can do at time check 1, and Adam Yates is the first rider to light up the timing screens in that regard. He's 27 seconds down on Derek G's time, moves a couple of seconds ahead of Simon Yates' brother on the road at the moment. But for now, G and Jorgensen are locked in the battle of the time trial for 8th position. Jorgensen, of course, has had his incident. We must take that into account. But keep an eye on this time check 1. Looking like it's going to be blown out of the water by Remco Evenepoel. But how much will he beat Derek G by, is the question I'm looking to ask at the top of La Turbie. Evenepoel continues and has 25 kilometres to go in his time trial effort. Still no sign of Giulio Ciccone's time at checkpoint 2. I will give it you as soon as I get it. When he gets to the top of Coldez. Jonas Vingegaard as well is on the road. And we're not seeing the battle for GC positions in that regard. But we are seeing the battle for the stage win be played out amongst these 3. So they are always locked together in this discipline. Remco Evenepoel should be in the driver's seat, the world time trial champion, let's not forget. But Vingegaard and Pogacar on their day can certainly challenge. As we saw in the previous time trial, Mikel Landa, big time at checkpoint 1, 22 seconds down on Derek G, and suddenly the pressure gets piled onto Joao Almeida. Landa's ahead of Yates at checkpoint 1. This is a good start for the Spanish rider on Soudal Quickstep. And maybe that gives us a bit of intel about how Remco is pacing this time trial. Because Landa's very quick at checkpoint 1. Will Remco have started like a house on fire too? It looked like it based on the 47-second time gap we got to Harold Tejada after just, 11 minutes in the saddle? But Mikel Landa's going big right now, as is Derek G, who has overtaken Giulio Ciccone on the road This is a very bad sign for Ciccone. Let's not forget that Santiago Buitrago is 49 seconds down on Lenny Martinez at checkpoint 2. Sorry, 49 seconds down on Derek G, who has just overtaken Martinez at the top of Col d'Ez. He's at 6 seconds ahead now of the French rider. So G crosses the line, 30 minutes and 17 seconds over Col d'Ez. This is Ciccone. He's getting a bike change, and it's not from road bike to time trial bike, so it's a mechanical problem for Ciccone. Nothing is going right for the Italian in the time trial. 2 minutes and 23 seconds down on Derek G. Santiago Buitrago is in the driver's seat for 10th position as things stand. Buitrago 5th at intermediate time check 2, 49 seconds down. And I think Giulio Ciccone is going to need a miracle to stay in the top 10. All of his Tour de France, where he's ridden so well, may just be undone by the final day's time trial. Where have we seen a final day time trial undoing a GC contender's hopes before? Le Monde and Fignon was the last time we had one of these at the end of a tour. And unfortunately, our Le Mans Fignon's moment isn't going to occur at the top of the general classification. But it seems to be occurring for 10th position, where Giulio Ciccone is in real danger. He needs to change the mood, and he needs to get his mind right going down this descent. Take as many calculated risks as possible. Matteo Jorgensen crosses the line at checkpoint 2, 11 seconds down. And Remco Evenepoel has just burst above Derek G. I'm probably going to see him go through checkpoint 1 in a short while, but that has cleared the time of Derek G by 36 seconds. It's a huge effort from Remco Evenepoel. As things stand, we've got Matteo Jorgensen going through intermediate time check 2. We've seen that at the moment. That's 11 seconds down on Derek G. And as a reminder of the classification battles, Derek G needs 24 seconds on Matteo Jorgensen. Buitrago needs 22 on Ciccone. And at the moment, he is more than getting that. Remco Evenepoel, however, crosses the first time check and is our new leader provisionally. We will wait to see what Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogacar can do in response, but at the moment Remco Evenepoel leads the way. 36 seconds ahead of Derek G, 44 ahead of Lenny Martinez, 50 ahead of Matteo Jorgensen, and 58 ahead of Mikel Landa in 5th. Vingegaard presses on. He will be the next rider to go through this checkpoint 1 at La Turbie. Or is it La Turbie? Let me check. No, it's La Turbie. It's got to be La Turbie. 11.2 kilometres into his effort is the signal for the top of La Turbie in the first time check. And Jonas Vingegaard goes just under 20 seconds quicker than Remco Evenepoel. That is a huge time from the Dane. And suddenly these big three once again are bursting away from the opposition. Even on the time trial stages where they're on their own, they keep on hammering the rest of the field. Jonas Vingegaard puts 55 seconds into the next best rider that is not in the big three. Crosses the line at checkpoint 1, 19 seconds ahead of Remco Evenepoel. And it's over to you, Tadej Pogacar, if you want to get something out of the day, namely a stage win. G is descending now. And Matteo Jorgensen hitting the deck early on. What will that do for his confidence going down the descent of Col d'Ez? we will see Tadej Pogacar go through intermediate checkpoint 1, and then we will flick the time checks to checkpoint 2, wait for everybody to go through there, and then do the same gradually until we get to the line. But Pogacar is on a mission, and that mission is once again to unseat a Visma Lease bike rider who is sitting pretty at the top of the standings for now. He started 2 minutes later than Jonas Vingegaard on the road. How far behind will he be on the road once he passes the intermediate time check? The answer is 1 minute and 53 seconds down. Pogacar goes 7 seconds quicker than Jonas Vingegaard and has 1 minute and 53 to close to catch him. I don't think he'll be able to do that, but both Pogacar and Vingegaard are beating Remco Evenepoel on the time trial at the moment. We go to checkpoint 2, where Simon Yates has gone past. There's Dylan Groenewegen's time, 6 minutes and 50 seconds down. But Derek G leads the way at checkpoint 2 for now. More and more times keep coming in, the times keep changing, the order keeps changing. But at intermediate checkpoint 1, the order is Pogacar in first, Vingegaard in second, Evenepoel third, G fourth, Lenny Martinez in fifth. The early pace setter has done very well to hold his position, however is gradually being unseated the more riders go through. Adam Yates crosses the line at the second intermediate point. We've seen that time up on the screen, 33 seconds down in fourth position. At the moment, winning that battle with Carlos Rodriguez. There's 1 second separating the pair of them, but Adam Yates is better in the time trial on paper. So Landa was quick out the blocks. Remco Evenepoel, not so much compared with Pogacar and Vingegaard, but is that who we should be comparing him with? He was saying how he was more than happy with third place, and the 2 riders that he's lost to are the best 2 riders in the world, and I think they are proving that on the road at the moment. Pogacar then 7 seconds advantage on Vingegaard, 26 on Remco Evenepoel. Simon Yates has crossed the third intermediate point in third position, 19 seconds down. Santiago Buitrago is only 10 seconds down on the time of Lenny Martinez. Once again, we will check that compared to Giulio Ciccone, who has had the time trial from hell at the moment. Derek G will go through, and that will be our instigator for starting to look at the little Trek rider. Mikel Landa crosses the line at the top of Col d'Ez. He's 18 seconds down on Derek G. The times keep flying in. I feel like I'm in a Formula 1 qualifying session at the Monaco Grand Prix. Of course, starting in Monaco today. As we get a view of Landa on my screen. Doesn't help that my stream is slightly behind my live timings that you're seeing at the moment. And actually you're seeing the live timings on stream, even despite the stream delay, before I see the pictures on TV. And Remco Evenepoel is churning now, not in the skis, and has an incredibly high gear. Just about cracking 15 kilometers an hour up these gradients of well over 10% that you find on the Col d'Ez. It is an incredibly difficult rise. I'm not sure how it's not been given any mountain classification points. At least give it a category 4, I'd say. Imagine though if the King of the Mountains jersey came down to just 1 point on the road. That would be incredible. And you saw our 2 King of the Mountain leaders fighting it out for it. Somebody else that's fighting to try and set a competitive time is Guillaume Martin. He's crossed the finish line. 1 minute and 30 seconds down, 1:29 actually. Within the top 20, although he will be quickly shoved out of the top 20 thanks to all of these GC top 10 contenders who are off and on the road. Tadej Pogacar being one of them, who is at the moment sending it down the descent that will lead him into the foot of Col d'Ez. A climb very familiar to those at the Paris-Nice and those at the Tour de France, where we've seen it used before. And we switch to Remco Evenepoel, who at the moment is the rider of the big three that is in the most trouble at the moment and has the biggest hole to dig himself out of. And it's time to dig in if he wants something from the day. Certainly will keep third on GC as long as he doesn't crash. So the stage win is the only thing that's in his mind at the moment, and it's the only thing that's in the mind of the Soudal Quick-Step team car. And at the moment, he's delivering once again. He was well ahead of Derek G at intermediate checkpoint 1. He has increased that gap ever so slightly at intermediate checkpoint 2. It was 36 seconds at checkpoint 1, and he's crossed the line, and it's 47 seconds at checkpoint 2. G once again goes fastest at the intermediate checkpoint 3. Attention then turns to Matteo Jorgensen. 24 seconds, don't forget, is the gap between those two, on the road for the moment for 8th position. The battle for best North American rider will be played out between the pair of them. It will be around 2 minutes before Matteo Jorgensen crosses the line. Richard Carapaz waves to the crowd. A jersey winner, the polka dot jersey, and had the leisureliest of leisurely time trials, well over 5 minutes down on our leader, who still, at this point, is Harold Tejada. He might as well vacate the hot seat at this point already, because the GC contenders will be after him. Lenny Martinez was at 10 seconds. Let's not forget, Tejada pulled it back on Martinez between checkpoint 3 and the finish line. Will we be seeing one of the GC riders do it to their big three counterparts on the final section of the course? Vingegaard digs in, swinging the bike from side to side, trying to get to the top of Col d'Ez in time. That time is 29 minutes and 30 seconds from Remco Evenepoel, and once again, he's blown it out of the water. 27 seconds clear of the Belgian is Jonas Vingegaard. So he's increased the gap by 8 seconds between checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. Evenepoel has stemmed the flow slightly. However, it's still in Vingegaard's hands in the battle between those two. What can Tadej Pogacar do now? The leader at checkpoint 1 had 7 seconds on Jonas Vingegaard going in to the first descent of the day. He's got the descent and Col d'Ez to do, and he will have almost have done both of them by this point. For the moment, Vingegaard leads, but how long will that lead last? The suggestion based on checkpoint 1 is not very long. Will we get a live time gap from the TV screens now? Of course, the time will come in before I see it on the TV screen, but I am watching the same screen as you, and that is huge from Tadej Pogacar. 28:39, 24 seconds ahead of Jonas Vingegaard, and 51 seconds ahead of Remco Evenepoel. He's basically put Vingegaard right in the middle of a sandwich between him and Remco Evenepoel. But Pogacar is taking no prisoners on this course. His next segment will be the downhill. This is the segment where he'd want to be most cautious and just not crash. But all three of them, I think, will be wanting to do that. Tadej Pogacar, again, we've seen him playing his options down in the pre-race interviews before the time trial. He's done the same again on today's stage, and it looks like he's delivering once more. Remco Evenepoel on the descent, flying down the aero bullet. And he's got to go as fast as a bullet to try and beat Pogacar and Vingegaard. At the moment, neither of them are unsettled. They're in control of the situation compared to Remco at the moment. But Pogacar's in control of everybody. 13 kilometres left of Evenepoel's effort. We know he's not a great descender out of the three of them. Buitrago crosses the line 3 seconds, down in second place on Harold Tejada. It's a Colombian 1-2 for now. And at the moment, that puts him more than in control ahead of Giulio Ciccone. 22 seconds is the gap between the pair of them. And it looks like Buitrago will hold on. He was 45 seconds down at intermediate time check 3. Giulio Ciccone at intermediate time check 3. Of course, he had the bike change as well. I don't see him. Let me have a refresh of my times page. 28th, 2 minutes and 24 seconds down. So yeah, Buitrago has all but sealed 10th overall. Unless Giulio Ciccone gets a sticky bottle from the team car in the same way that he accused Buitrago of getting a sticky bottle from the team car on stage 19. Pogacar, though, is pressing on. And it's time to switch to checkpoint 3. I've just noticed that. And my oh my, it's a checkpoint that Matteo Jorgensen leads. That was a huge descent from Matteo Jorgensen. I was questioning whether the crash would have put him off early on in the stage. Of course, that was on an uphill, so it didn't affect him too much, but I thought it might have slightly messed with his mentals. However, that is a huge gap that he has closed and passed to Derek G. For a moment there, it was on that Jorgensen was going to get jumped by the Canadian. However, a huge descent from Matteo Jorgensen means that he's closed 33 seconds on Derek G and is now 22 seconds ahead at the third checkpoint. Drone following Pogacar, who's going at well over 70 kilometres an hour down the descent. Adam Yates slots in at 5th position over checkpoint 3. He's got it all but sealed over Carlos Rodriguez, who has been nowhere to be seen in these intermediate time checks as of recent. Of course, Rodriguez started 2 minutes ahead of Adam Yates on the road. Will Yates have actually even caught the Ineos rider and passed him? That would be rather embarrassing. Checking through the third time check now. I don't see his name up, but these ones that I'm looking at, separate from the screen that you're seeing at the moment, are different. An update a little bit later. I shall go for the second time check, actually, and see what we can find in terms of the Ineos rider. And once again, it looks like he's well out of it. Pogacar continues, however. Hello, Bracho. How are we all doing on this fine evening? And it's a fine time from Matteo Jorgensen, who's crossed the finish line and sealed his GC position, 23 seconds ahead of Derek G. Derek G needed to find 24 on Matteo Jorgensen, but actually the American has increased that gap. And Visma Lease Bike have got it right. G unseated. He wouldn't have even had time to make it to the hot seat at this point. But Jorgensen is your new leader on the road. Mikel Landa crosses the third checkpoint at 27 seconds behind Matteo Jorgensen. Very competitive time from Landa. And we've not seen anything at all from the man he's chasing. Could this be a real turn-up for the books? Because Joao Almeida was slightly behind Mikel Landa at the second intermediate time check. Landa was at 1:56, Joao Almeida was at 2 minutes and 3 seconds, so it was 7 seconds that separated them at the second check. This is a replay of Pogacar, who had a little twitch before a hairpin bend on the descent, taking all the risks he possibly can, and the time is well within the green, 1 minute and 7 seconds ahead of Remco Evenepoel, who we haven't even seen go through checkpoint 3 yet, but I'm sure he'll go through fastest. Pogacar blowing Evenepoel's time out of the water, the world time trial champion, not defending the rainbow bands on this occasion. 51 seconds at the second time check to Pogacar. It was 26 seconds to begin with, so he's shipping time at a fairly consistent rate, and it looks like it's going to stay that way heading towards checkpoint 3. Evenepoel will still be the first to cross that line, then will come Jonas Vingegaard, then will come Tadej Pogacar. We await to see the time of Joao Almeida through checkpoint 3. Can't be long to go until he gets there. And we will compare it with eagle eyes to Mikel Landa. If it stayed at 7 seconds, Almeida will be on 34, but Almeida slots into second position and takes back control of the battle with Mikel Landa. 10 seconds clear of the Spanish rider is Joao Almeida. So a brief scare for the Portuguese man on UAE Team Emirates, and a brief scare for Jonas Vingegaard. All three of the GC contenders going very hard down this descent and taking all the risks they possibly can. Well corrected from Vingegaard and Pogacar. Both of them press on. Remco Evenepoel's just got to lose as little time as possible because he looks like he's destined for third on the road. Matteo Jorgensen, however, did an incredible checkpoint 2 to checkpoint 3 when compared with Derek G. So where will he even stand compared to Remco on the road? Pogacar at the moment is absolutely destroying Vingegaard's time if the TV gaps are to be believed. They have a live gap running at 1 minute that Pogacar is ahead of Jonas Vingegaard. Remco Evenepoel crosses the line 40 seconds clear of Matteo Jorgensen. So Jorgensen closed, but not as much as I was trying to hype it up to be to Remco Evenepoel, as we get more shots of the sun setting in the French sky. We'll be having our presentations in Nice. I'm surely crowned in the yellow jersey, barring any severe problem in the last 8 kilometres, is Tadej Pogacar. We will find out his time at checkpoint 3 soon, but before that we will see what Jonas Vingegaard can do. To the line comes Carlos Rodriguez, finishing 11th, 1 minute and 44 seconds down, which means the time Adam Yates has to set, if I bring up the GC battles, is 1 minute and 45 seconds behind our current leader Matteo Jorgensen in the battle for 6th. So Yates has to be within 1:45 of Jorgensen. I'm sure he will do that. Jorgensen was 40 seconds down on Evenepoel at checkpoint 3. Yates was 1 minute and 23. Yates crosses the line 48 seconds down, gains time on Carlos Rodriguez, and preserves his 6th position on the road. The battle for 4th did get very tasty for a moment as Jonas Vingegaard crosses the line at checkpoint 3, and once again he's held his own to Remco Evenepoel. He had a bit of a scare on the descent and has held it to the line, but hasn't gained on Remco between checkpoint 2 and checkpoint 3, as I see images of Yates crossing the line 48 seconds behind Matteo Jorgensen. So he's done his job, and we'll now be watching the screens to see what Joao Almeida and later Tadej Pogacar can do. At the moment, Almeida is 4th quickest on the road based on the checkpoint 3 timings. Jorgensen has already finished, of course, but at intermediate checkpoint 3 so far, Vingegaard leads the way at 40 minutes 32. I'm sure he will be soon to be unseated by Tadej Pogacar, who once again puts in a minute on Jonas Vingegaard. We've seen him put in a minute to Vingegaard before on previous road stages of this Tour de France. But this time it's the time trial, it's the race against the clock, and Pogacar is more than winning that at the moment. He's hammering the clock. And he's underneath the 40-minute mark, 39.28 through checkpoint 3. And they have to update that graphic for Jonas Vingegaard because he is not 23 seconds up anymore. He is 1 minute and 4 seconds down. Remco Evenepoel sat third on 1 minute and 28 seconds. Landa crosses the line at the finish in Nice, 33 seconds behind Matteo Jorgensen. The times are flying in thick and fast now. But it is a very, very respectable time from Mikel Landa, a man who's not known for his time trial at all, and a man who usually loses a lot of time to his GC rivals in the time trial, finishes third as things stand. I'm sure that will soon to be either 6th or 7th, depending on how Joao Almeida finishes the time trial. Should finish behind Jorgensen, based on our estimates. However, anything can happen on the road into Nice. Not long left now until we see the Tour de France come to a close on the roads of Nice. Pogacar started here as a fresh-faced young man in 2020 for the start of that Tour de France. He went on to win it. Nice has become a bit of a prosperous land for him. And once again, he will take home a yellow jersey. It was where it all started at the Tour de France. And at the moment, it's where he's making his mark the most. 1 minute and 4 seconds was his advantage, let's not forget, on Jonas Vingegaard. And in 4 kilometres' time, he will be crowned surely as champion of the Tour de France for 2024. Pogacar continues. Keeps in the skis, keeps his head down, keeps his back as straight as possible and his core stable. Legs pumping the pedals. And he is shifting at a rate of knots, 55 kilometres an hour. Joao Almeida, the time goes red to Matteo Jorgensen, but that's fine. The battle he's in with is Mikel Landa, and Almeida is doing his utmost at the moment. 10 seconds down on Matteo Jorgensen across the line. Great result for Almeida, and we'll see what everybody else can do. Evenepoel will be our next man to finish. He's got 600 metres left of his effort. Jonas Vingegaard's got 2 kilometres remaining of his. Will they cross over each other on the road? I don't think so. However, Vingegaard and Pogacar may. Remco Evenepoel goes quickest by 54 seconds ahead of Matteo Jorgensen. However, will he be unseated by a fellow Visma Lease bike rider? 2-minute time gaps it was between Remco Evenepoel and Jonas Vingegaard at the start of the day. They set off, of course, at 2-minute intervals. The crowds are packed now in the seated areas. All of the paying spectators have turned up to see Remco Evenepoel smash the time of Matteo Jorgensen out of the park. But Jonas Vingegaard might just smash Remco's time out of the park, and then Tadej Pogacar hit it for a home run. 1.4 kilometres to go for Jonas Vingegaard. Starting to get a bit ragged towards the end of this effort. He's given it his all on the stage like he said he would. He was giving his all to try and hold on to second on GC. It will be the provisional stage win, but that provisional stage win will not last long at all because Pogacar is round the final hairpin as we get a replay. Pogacar showing 3 fingers on his rear end, signalling something to the team car perhaps, but still communicating with the team car going at this pace. We thought he'd had trouble between the start and checkpoint 1, but immediately proved the doubters wrong, crossing the line well ahead of Remco Evenepoel, 26 seconds and 7 seconds clear of Jonas Vingegaard, who was about to smash Evenepoel's time through the roof. Pogacar will clear that and send it to space. Vingegaard beats Evenepoel by only 11 seconds. So Vingegaard hasn't had the greatest of times between checkpoint 3 and the finish. But he's in the hot seat nonetheless. His time in the hot seat won't last long though. He won't even have enough time to get himself into the chair, crossing the line on the TV screen 11 seconds ahead of Remco Evenepoel. But it's Tadej Pogacar's tour. It's Tour de Tadej, and he's got 600 metres remaining of it. Past a whole subsection of Danish fans, so he's going to disappoint once again as he unseats Jonas Vingegaard. Vingegaard's only beaten him once at this Tour de France, and it is going to be an incredible 6th stage win for Tadej Pogacar. He's just got to stay on his bike in the final 400 metres, round the first left-hander. He's done his final hairpin on the course as well. Next up is a right-hander. Traverses that okay, and then a lazy left-hander until he makes it to the line and crosses the line 1 minute and 3 seconds clear of Jonas Vingegaard. He's got more than enough time to celebrate. In the end, looks across, sees the time, the arms go up, and it is number 6 for Tadej Pogacar at the 2024 Tour de France. What a win. The UAE Team Emirates team are all in white and yellow jerseys, and the party can start for that team. Pavel Sivakov and various other riders around him. Jonas Vingegaard caked in sweat. Pogacar in celebratory mood. Pollitt looking rather dashing in that jersey, I might say. But Vingegaard just has Evenepoel, his wife, and his son for company as Pogacar gets absolutely pelted in, I think that's cold water. But what a stage win it was. Pogacar blowing Jonas Vingegaard's time out of the water. 1 minute and 3 seconds clear of the Dane, who will finish in 2nd overall at this Tour de France. A heroic effort considering the injuries he came into the race with. Remco Evenepoel will take the white jersey and 3rd place, but not the stage win. They were bullish in the team car about it to begin the stage, and at the end he's finished 3rd of the big 3, both on GC and in the stage, 1 minute and 14 seconds behind Pogacar. Matteo Jorgensen, when we thought the battle with Derek G was on at the first time check, pulled it back and ended up thoroughly beating Derek G on the road, 2 minutes and 8 seconds down on Tadej Pogacar across the line in 4th, with Joao Almeida rounding out the top 5 and sealing his 4th place overall. And there we have it. That is the end of the Tour de France for another year. Pogacar celebrates with all of the UAE Team Emirates staff, who are all decked out in yellow and white gear. And that is all for the stage then. Derek G finishes 6th at 2 minutes 31. Mikel Landa 7th, 2 minutes 41. Great time trial from him. Harold Tejada, big applause for the Astana Kazakhstan rider at 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Down in 8th, with Buitrago 9th at 2:53. He's moved himself into the top 10. And Adam Yates just under 3 minutes in 10th on the stage. Buitrago unseats Ciccone then in the top 10, and that rivalry I'm sure will continue at a later point in the season. They clearly don't like each other. But it's time for our next part of this stream. And